Hey guys, this is Frank Yecker, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
Hey, this is Rich Franklin.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Lieben. This is Diego Sanchez. Randy Couture.
Alice Overeem. Hi, this is Stephen Bonner.
This is Don Fry.
Hey, I'm Phil, Mr. Wonderful Davis.
TJ Dillashaw.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Welcome to another episode of Submission Radio. It's the 16th of August. Dennis Grado here with Kasper Ozalowski. A big, almost supersized episode of Submission Radio this week. Isn't it, Cass?
Now, don't hype it up too much. Who am I kidding? We got a massive show here. We got big guests. Just wait till you hear who we've got on the show this week. UFC Flyweight Champion. That's right. We got a champion back on the show. Demetrious Johnson is returning to Submission Radio. He's got a big fight at UFC 191 against John Dodson. We got some stern questions for Mighty Mouse. He's going to be on the show. We've got Big Rigg himself, Johny Hendricks. He's got his fight against Tyron Woodley, UFC 192. He's coming back to the show. Ryan Bader, a guy who we've had quite a bit of recently, but he's got this Twitter beef with Rashad. You know, he's got a lot of accusations, people saying he doesn't have an exciting style. We want to pick the man's brain. He's coming back to Submission Radio. And a special, actually no, we've got two more guests. It doesn't end here. We've got Elias Cepeda from Fox Sports, fantastic journalist. Seeing as there's no big MMA events this week, we're going to be doing a roundtable discussion. We've done it before with Tommy Toehold. We've done it before with Kareem Zidane. We've done it before with Dave Meltzer. Elias Cepeda is the newest addition. We're going to be chatting to him about a whole bunch of things. Anderson Silva, the Heavyweight Division, and Ronda Rousey. You won't want to miss that. And then in a last-minute addition, the lady who will be portraying Ronda Rousey on... Is it the silver screen? I want to say the white screen for reasons that are pretty obvious. Pornstar Kleio Valentien will be joining us. She plays Ronda Rousey in the feature film Ronda Rousey. Got a bunch of questions for her as well. So, yeah, it's a pretty stacked and juicy show.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of research going into that interview and really giving Submission Radio a different meaning for this episode. So a lot of people tuning in expecting this just to be a dominatrix show.
That's right.
From the porn world. We're sorry, but the interviews with the MMA guys are great, and people just wanting to listen to MMA fighters. It's time to broaden your horizons a little bit. Just wanted to mention a couple of things as well. The Facebook page, facebook.com/Submission Radio AUS. Have a look for us and like us. It's one of the best ways for you to communicate with us. We had a lot of fun talking to fans through the page, and just wanted to mention a couple of users just to sort of say hello and thank you for the comments. Tom Macca, great comments there. We've got Brendan Broach, we've got Zach Elliott, we've got Grapple Seeds, we've got Jan Nightstand, just a whole bunch of guys. If you guys want to join the list and speak with us, we actually run our own social media. It's one of the best ways to communicate with us. Jump on the Facebook page and like it, and also follow us on Twitter. That's sort of where we exercise our comedic genius. Me and Kasper think we're bit of a MMA comedian group, so we've got some fun stuff that we put on there at Submission AUS. Give us a follow. You won't regret it. A lot of fun stuff there, and we also run that ourselves, just so you know, so every comment is seen by us.
Yeah, before we rush to our first interview, I just want to say a big thank you to the people who have been dropping in the reviews on iTunes. They've been flowing in. Recently, we've had a big rise in those, so thank you. It means a lot to us if you do rate us 5 stars, and I'm not saying you have to, but if you do, it definitely helps us in terms of iTunes, SEO, and all that good stuff. The people at iTunes go, people are rating this 5 stars, it must not be garbage. So if you think we're worth a 5-star review, definitely jump on there. By all means, give us your feedback. Aaron the Psychopath Chapman, shout out to him because he's always hitting us up on Twitter, and his review just popped in the other day, and I'm like, hey, I know this guy. Normally I see names, and I'm like, I don't know who that person is, but I really appreciate the review nonetheless. So definitely feel free to do that if you guys have a couple of seconds. That's iTunes. We're available on pretty much every podcast platform there is on the planet. And just a reminder, the guest order this week is going to be Johny Hendricks, first cab off the rank, Demetrious Johnson, Ryan Bader, Kleio Valentien coming in last towards the end of the show, and then our roundtable discussion with Elias Cepeda to round things off. So it's going to be nice episode. Oh, of course, comments, sound off below in the YouTube comments if you're watching on YouTube. Without further ado, Dennis, I believe we have our first guest on the line.
Our next guest is a former UFC welterweight champion who's fighting Tyron Woodley at UFC 192 on his journey back to another title shot. Fresh from a relaxing Harley trip around the roads of America, we welcome back the Big Rigg himself, Johny Hendricks, to Submission Radio. How are you, Johnny?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
Doing really good. We want to hear all about your adventure. You know, you had the big journey recently on your Harley Davidson. Tell us all about the trip. How was it?
The trip was awesome. Just nothing but you on the road. was pretty awesome. I loved it. You got to see some beautiful country. It was a little hot, but I loved it. It's something that sometimes you see something and words can't explain. That's what I got to do.
You're having one of those moments right now.
Did you guys, was it a group of UFC guys on the trip?
Yeah, there was there was 5 of us, counting me. And we went over there. We rode all through Colorado, up to Estes Park, and back down. Like I said, it was a pretty fun experience.
Yeah, because I was going to say, did you feel at any point that you guys were like the Sons of Anarchy crew, but really like the UFC crew? And in a lot of ways, you guys are tougher than the Sons of Anarchy crew because you're all made up of like ex-champions and current champions and stuff like that.
You know what? Realistically, it was me and let's see here. It was me and my friend, one of my good friends. He works for Whole Cat, and then his dad.
But his dad's tough. Dad's a pretty
brother.
tough guy.
Huh?
His dad's a pretty tough guy.
Yeah. Hey, he beat up his son.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a whole bunch of tough guys, and you guys don't need leather or guns to be tough. People can just feel it. Let's talk about the big fight. Dallas, Texas, October 3rd. This is going to be your third time fighting in your hometown. How happy are you to have the home field advantage again and be fighting in Texas?
It's awesome. Anytime I get to fight in Texas, fight at home, it's nice to know that people want to see you fight at your home. You know what I mean? And be able to get fights here is pretty sweet. Home crowd again, and you don't have to travel. And that's right there is a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, you've had some success in Texas. You've been Matt Brown most recently. You won the belt against Robbie Lawler. And back in 2009 in the WEC, you actually beat Alex in a fight of the night performance in the Lone Star State. You must be feeling pretty good about your chances against Tyron, given your history in Texas.
And that's it. Is that you when you feel comfortable and you're ready, and you have the crowd on your side, it's words can't explain whenever you're sitting there and you're walking in there and everybody's cheering for you because they want to see you win.
Is there a lot of pressure? Because we can imagine, you're probably going to have, a lot of people in there, maybe a few hundred people from your hometown in there watching you fight. That's got to be a lot of pressure. If it was us, we'd probably want to go somewhere like Brazil, and then if we lose, we come back and we just lie to everyone. We say, oh, no, we won. You guys weren't there. You didn't see it. Is there pressure for you?
You know what? Realistically, I don't think there's any pressure. I guess I don't let it be. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason to. Yeah, you're fighting at home. Yeah, you're doing things that you that are good, but I don't know. I guess I like that kind of pressure. You want to always win in your hometown or your home state, should I say? And you always want to win in front of your crowd. But with that being said, you try not to put too much into it because whenever you step in there, you got to be focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, for sure. After party at Big Rigg Steakhouse. Now, speaking of hometowns, our hometown, Melbourne, in particular, many people believed you'd be rematching Lawler after your dominant win over Matt Brown. It's old news now, but what was your reaction when you saw Condit getting the title shot over you here in Melbourne, Australia in November?
You know what? Realistically, it's not the first time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're a little upset, but realistically, you just look at it and say, man, it is what it is. Don't know why, don't know how, but he did. So if he did, then you just sit there and say, hey, get one more win, get one more win, and move forward. To where you sort of do the cowboy. I've been telling everybody, you do the cowboy way. You just sit there and start beating everybody until there are no more number one contenders. Except for me.
Well, that's exactly right. You're doing the whole, cowboy surround. You say get one more win. Realistically, if you beat Tyron Woodley, do you think that'll be enough? I mean, because sooner or later, if you go the cowboy route, you're already at the top of the welterweight division. Surely there can't be too many guys that you would have to beat. Do you think Tyron and then you get the title shot?
Well, I hope so. If that doesn't give me the title shot, if I don't, if I beat the number 5 ranked guy, and I beat the number 4 ranked guy, I guess I need to drop down to the number 15th guy, beat them, and that'll give me a title shot.
Right.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because let's just talk about this for a second. You're ranked number 1, and Carlos is ranked number 4th on the UFC welterweight rankings. And now that Carlos skipped over you and got the title shot, do you see much sense in having official rankings?
You know, I understand rankings. You know what I mean? I do. There's a place for them. Now, it'd be different if I was 0-2 against Robbie. You know what I'm saying? If I was 0-2, then you sit there and say, okay, how do I get back to being number 1? Or I gotta hope that somebody loses to him, or somebody beats him. Excuse me. If somebody beats him, then I can go back into another title fight. But since it is 1-1, I just feel like no matter what it was, I should have. Nobody should have jumped me.
Yeah, I mean, look, you and the UFC, you've always had a good relationship, but, you know, it must be incredibly frustrating, especially you losing such a close fight to Lawler and beating him once already. Like you mentioned, you guys are 1-1. You know, you're a very positive guy. You're a very kind of roll with the punches, but does it frustrate you that certain fighters, you know, we get priority because they are considered more exciting? And do you worry about ending up in a similar spot to another talented wrestler in Frankie Edgar?
Well, you know, here's the thing. Look at Frankie Edgar. He's exciting, and he hasn't got a title shot in how long? You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things that you know. Here's what I've learned: do not try to think too much. Do not try to think too much. You know what I'm saying? Do your job, and my job is to fight. You know what I'm saying? And the way that I look at it, and the way that I'm thinking of it, is that I can't. Sometimes you have to take it in your own hands, yes, but I'm never going to talk trash or call somebody something or do anything to get a fight. I mean, I have kids. I've done so good so far. You know what I'm saying? Letting my fighting do the talking. And if that's what I have to do to get a fight, then I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? Like I said, then that's wherever I'm going to go with this kind of attitude. I'm just going to keep beating people and beating people and beating people until there is no one left.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's an interesting one. You fought Carlos, you fought Robbie. What do you think of this fight? Who do you think wins it?
You know, I think it's going to be a good fight. You know, I don't know. The reason why it's going to be tough is because, you know, depends what game plan Carlos Condit comes out with. You know, we've seen him. You know, they keep saying that, oh, he does exciting fights, but realistically, you know, his title shots, they haven't been as exciting. You know, Nick Diaz, 5-round fight. You know what I'm saying? Then George St. Pierre, you know, besides the head kick, you know, the way he fights. You know what I mean? Whenever he fights these guys that he knows that he has to worry about power, and, you know, who knows that he might go out there and try to throw offense right off the bat. And take the fight to Robbie Lawler. You know, only time can tell. You know, like I said, there's still a lot of time, and you know, you also got to think too that all right, if it's, you know, when is the fight again? I know it's in Australia. I don't know when though.
Oh, it's pretty much tattooed on our hearts. November the 14th. Here's November 15th.
November the 14th.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, and so that right there might be a great thing. You know, how well does Robbie recover from this last fight? You know, that might play into a factor. Just don't know. And only time can tell.
Right. I mean, we were surprised, especially, you know, the thing on his face, the second mouth that he had there. We were like, wow, I can't believe we're going, you know, he's going to be fighting in November so soon. But let me ask you this, because you mentioned Carlos Condit, you know, the way he fights in title fights. You and Robbie, you guys fought fairly recently. So logic would say, in terms of marketability, you and Carlos might be the more marketable fight because, you know, you guys fought a while back. Is part of you sort of secretly, not so secretly hoping that Carlos wins so that, you know, the match might be easier to make, assuming you beat Tyron?
Yeah, you know, realistically, I don't care who it is. Yeah, you know, I don't care who wins it. I was hoping that Robbie was going to win this last one deep down, so that way I can get my rematch. You know, now that that didn't happen, I don't care who wins this fight. whoever, whenever. Doesn't matter. But realistically right now, the only thing I can think of that I know I have to think of is Tyron Woodley. If I don't look for him, he's ranked in the top 5 for a reason. And if I overlook him, then that could be bad news for me, and it might take me 2 more fights to get back to the title.
Well, it's interesting that you mention that because Tyron has had some big wins, but he struggled against some of the top names in the division, such as McDonald's and Shields. And while he did beat Condit, had controversy because Condit suffered that early knee injury in the fight, which really didn't show us how he copes with guys on Condit's level. I mean, you just mentioned that you don't want to overlook him, but does a part of you sort of not really see him as much of a threat going into this fight?
No, you have to. You have to think of him as a threat. If you don't think of him as a threat, it could be poor judgment. It's a fight, and it's a tough fight. He has wrestling and he has power in his right hand. And whenever you look at those 2 things, if you don't look at him and respect him, then you lose. And when you lose, it takes you that much longer to get back to where you want to be.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an interesting matchup. You guys are both great wrestlers. You guys both have power. He's got the power right. You've got the power left. He's known for his wrestling, much like yourself. When it comes down to the fight, who do you think is the better MMA wrestler? Are you at all worried about his wrestling leading up into this fight? Not worried, but is his wrestling something you got to watch out for?
It is, and then it isn't. Meaning that it is because if you start winning some of the exchanges, who's to say that he doesn't come out and try to get a takedown, sort of bait me into one or try to throw some punches to get to one. So you sort of have to worry about those takedowns. But then again, you don't go in there thinking that that's the only thing he's going to do, because then that might mess up your striking abilities or what you want to do and what you need to do. So that way, let's say he goes out there, I'm worried about his takedowns. I start striking, but I'm not really committing on a lot of punches. That's going to build confidence on him, and the more confidence he builds, that he might use that to his advantage to get some takedowns.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting matchup. I'm just wondering, when you look at the skill sets that we're talking about right now, what do you sort of see as your biggest advantage over him going into this matchup?
One, fighting a lot of top 5 opponents. Back to back. I think since 2013, I've been fighting top 5 guys. Actually, probably even sooner than that, because I went Fitch, Koscheck, who else? Condit was one of them. Then I had Martin Kampman, and then GSP. Then so I've had a lot of them, and I've also had a lot of 5-round fights. So maybe that's one thing that could be in my favor, is that I've had a lot of experience, a lot of exposure to the media and all that kind of stuff. And also the big-time pressure fights. I've been there. So, but realistically, I try not to think of any of that. I know I just named off some of the stuff, but whenever I'm training and whenever I'm doing things, I try to sit there and say, we're equal. We're the same. Because how do I beat a guy that's equal to me? And that's sort of how the way that I try to approach every fight.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We've been reading the interviews you've been doing recently, and you're saying things like people are going to be remembering after this fight, your hands, your striking. What has been the focus this training camp?
This training camp, it's been a little bit of striking. It's been, I've been focusing a lot on just, not really even striking, getting back to the raw striking. I've been out pointing everybody for a while now. I've been striking with some of the best strikers that people told me that I should lose to, and I'm out striking them. And so now it's time to get back to sort of what got me there, and really throw some power into that instead of trying to point people and land hard shots, but try to finish some people, and that's really what I'm trying to focus on, is trying to hit somebody as hard as I can again.
Now, Johnny, once you do get your title shot with Lawler, it will be after lots of hard work getting up the ladder. Now knowing how much effort you've put in and how much you're going to have to put in to get another title shot and have a third fight with Robbie, how would it play out differently from your last two fights? Would you be more motivated and more sort of eager to really put on a great fight and take him out earlier than in the other fights that you've had with him?
Well, realistically, eager? No. You still got to fight smart. If you don't fight smart, definitely in those instances, look at Ronda McDonald. He was up 3-1. He fought a smart fight, but his nose couldn't take any more. And that's where you can win fights and still look exciting, but you have to make sure that you do it the right way. But what you have to do is, I'm getting my weight under control. That's one of the things. My weight's starting to get to where it's not the issue anymore, which is nice.
That's good,
and is, get power back. Just build muscle. I know it sounds weird, but, the stronger I am, the easier some things get. And whenever I feel as strong as most people there, and I haven't been touching weights for the last 3 years, now whenever I'm wrestling people or rolling with people or striking with people, I feel like I'm starting to get an edge back. Instead of being equal with everybody, I'm starting to get an edge.
Johnny, we want to thank you so much for your time. Before we let you off, we just got a couple more questions and then we'll finish up. Just want to get your thoughts on this. Recently, GSP was interviewed, and while he discussed how he believed you deserve the next title shot, he also said that, this is a quote I'm reading, "If I would have to bet between Lawler, Hendricks, and Condit, I believe Condit is the one that will emerge victorious. That's on a 5-round fight. He's a nightmare." That's basically the quote. Having really taken GSP to the limit in your fight with him, what do you think of those comments?
Who cares? You know what I mean? Who cares? Yeah. The reason why he's saying that is because the last time I got tired in the third round, right? Okay? But here's the thing. It's a 3-round fight. Everybody's like, if he would have went 5 rounds, Condit would have beat him. Well, no, because if I was training for a 5-round fight, which I think I've proven, that I can go 5 rounds. I can do those things, and that's important. So realistically, who cares?
Yeah, certainly. Now, Johnny, before we let you go, we like to ask our guests their predictions for their fights, and obviously still a while away, but when you look at this fight with Tyron Woodley, what sort of pops out into your mind? How do you predict this one ending?
There's a couple ways I see it ending. First and foremost, I want to get my hand raised. I think that's most important. Is get the hand raised. Second is that, hopefully I can go out there and showcase some of my things that I've been working on. Every fight I'm improving my striking, and I think people see that, that I am improving my striking, and that's really important to me because I think that's going to help me further down the road. And not only that, but also show the power that I have now. Getting back to the old ways, that's really what I want to showcase.
Well, extra power and extra muscle. You don't need to sell us anymore, Johnny. We can't wait to watch. Guys, don't forget to follow Johny Hendricks on Twitter at Johny Hendricks. And if you're in Texas, you have to do yourself a favor and check out Big Rigg Steakhouse. Like them on Facebook, facebook.com/Big Rigg Steakhouse. And you can watch Johnny in action against Tyron Woodley at UFC 192 October 3rd, or due to the time difference, October 4th here in Australia. Johnny, we want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming on the show again. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, guys. You all have a wonderful night.
This is Don Fry, and you're listening to Submission Radio. You touch that dial and I'll kill you.
All right, guys, our next guest is one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world and is the UFC Flyweight champion. He is set to fight John Dodson in an exciting rematch on September 5th at UFC 191 and is the one gamer you don't want to talk trash to on Xbox Live because he can back everything up and kick your ass in real life. Demetrious Johnson, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me back on. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure. Now, before we talk fighting, Demetrious, we want to get your thoughts on a few things that are dear to you, and that's video games. We've been addicted to Batman Arkham Knight recently. Please tell us, have you played it? And if so, what does the Flyweight champion make of it?
Unfortunately, I have not played that game, but I have played the previous one, Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City. Those games are phenomenal, so I'm pretty sure this one is just even better than those ones.
Yeah, if you want to do yourself a favor, definitely pick it up. I'm just curious, when you were younger, when we were younger, and by younger we mean last week, we'd stay up to ridiculous hours of the night playing video games and pretty much live off whatever food is laying around in the house. Before you became a high-profile fighter and got busy, with all these media obligations, were you ever that kind of gamer? And do you still stay up late into the night playing video games when you're not in training camp?
Absolutely. I even do it during training camp just because my son's crazy and he has to get to midnight. So I try to find time to play games, obviously, at nighttime when the family's sleeping. But now that my son is getting older and he likes to stay up late watching Mickey Mouse, I try to sneak in a little gaming time whenever I get the chance to.
Yeah, I mean, what's up with your son taking away from your gaming time with this Mickey Mouse? It's just ridiculous.
Right.
We know you like first-person shooters like Call of Duty. Are you excited for the new Star Wars game? From what we've seen, it's like Battlefield, but Star Wars, and obviously we've all seen the trailers. The graphics and the audio look to be pretty amazing.
The game was pretty dope. I'm actually more excited to watch the movie. And I remember playing Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the MMO, online, and it was pretty good. So I'm hoping they really deliver on the Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah, Star Wars Battlefront looks absolutely amazing. The audios are meant to be crazy as well. Fighters are always looking for ways to get their names out there and connect with fans more. I'm just curious, have you ever thought about doing like a regular segment, maybe on like your own YouTube channel that you make, and doing game reviews or maybe gaming commentary? Because those guys get like millions of views, and it'd be kind of like Don Fry's predictions, but it'd be you talking about video games.
Actually, I just started up my own Twitch channel.
Hey.
And I haven't been streaming that Twitch just because the game that I am playing right now is Final Fantasy and it's an MMO, so it's not as Twitch-friendly streaming, Because usually when I'm streaming, the fans are trying to talk to me and they want to interact. And with that game, when I'm usually playing, I'm just focused and dialed in. So I'm waiting for Street Fighter 5 to come out. I'm going to start my streaming there on PS4, and I'll be interacting with fans because, I can fight 2 rounds, take a round off, or choose the next, get my next opponent lined up, and then start talking when I do that.
It's interesting they mentioned PS4 because we've sort of structured the interview to make sure anything we talk about video games is sort of Xbox related. Obviously, Xbox were one of your biggest sponsors. What's going on now? Now that, you guys aren't as close, are you switching to PS4?
I'm so close to the guy. Actually, he sent me a message today saying happy birthday. And, obviously that time has passed, Obviously, I'm a fan of Xbox One and PS4. I'm just waiting for, right now, the only reason I play PS4 is because they only have the game on there that I like to play, which is Final Fantasy, and it's cross-platform. So if a person's playing on PC, I can also play on PS4. So whereas Xbox One, they didn't want to make that bridge connection between cross-platforms with those guys. So, and I also like streaming on Twitch. I like streaming on my PS4 better because it's only like 2 buttons I have to press, and I'm good to go. Whereas when I tried to set up for Xbox One, it was a little more difficult. So, I still love both systems, but right now, PS4 has my attention, and I'm just enjoy playing that.
Let me ask you something, because it's a debate for the ages. Everybody has their favorite system of all time. Me, personally, people know I'm a Nintendo 64 man. Yeah. How about yourself, Demetrious? What's the one that sticks to your heart the most?
Oh, man, I would say either Dreamcast or Super Nintendo.
Dreamcast?
Dreamcast. Yes, Dreamcast was one of the first systems where...
back in the day.
You're like the only guy.
Well, I had one, and a lot of my friends had it too, but those were that system came out with a lot of arcade games, that had Marvel vs. Capcom on it. It had Spawn. I can't remember the Spawn fighting game. It was Spawn Armageddon. It had Fantasy Star Online. It had it had Power Stone, where you never see a game like that ever again. So it had a lot of unique games on there. That's one of the things I loved about it. And it's Super Nintendo. It had Mario World, Mega Man X series. It had a lot of good stuff on there.
Hey, Dreamcast came out at like a weird time. It was in between other consoles. Some say it sort of peaked too early. It had this Mortal Kombat game, I think Mortal Kombat Gold, that never came out or anything else. I want to talk to you about something, Demetrious, because while we're talking about fan interaction, connecting with fans and the public, we read something. We read that UFC Vice President of PR Dave Scholler had a conversation with you and advised you not to filter yourself and to just speak the way you do in real life. Can you tell us about that? What was that conversation like, and what did he tell you?
Basically, me and Dave Scholler sat down, and he was like, dude, each time I hear you do interviews, you just self-edit yourself. Like, I know who you are as a person, and I just feel like you're hindering yourself. And so when he told me that, then I was just like, okay, well, I'll just start talking like the way I usually do when I'm at home in front of everybody. And so with that being said, it wasn't like, negative conversation we had back and forth or him he's basically just trying to help guide me. And that's what most of the guys who work in the UFC PR office do. I mean, I've been knowing Dave Lawler since WEC days, and I've come a long way in my career. And now he's just trying to help me, blossom to a beautiful flower, I guess you can say.
Oh, well, you're a beautiful flower already, Demetrious. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Just wondering, did you feel like you were restricted at any points to sort of have to be a bit more political when you were champion? Did you sort of think that that's what sort of the UFC was looking for you? Were you a little bit afraid to sort of voice your opinion before?
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say I was never scared to voice my opinion. I just wanted to make a good example, I guess you can say. And I believe even when I'm being more outspoken about things, I still believe I am making a good example for younger athletes and also future athletes. But as for me, like I said, I think it was just Dave Lawler trying to help me just grow up and be more confident when I speak, when I do my interviews.
You've been one of the most gentlemanliest gentlemen we've ever seen do interviews. There's not one way we can think, well, like, Demetrious came off really bad or anything. Now that you've got the green light to pretty much unedit yourself, how does that feel? We imagine it's like James Bond when he got his license to kill. You can just, drop F-bombs. This is the new and improved, F-bomb dropping Demetrious Johnson, right?
That's right. You hit it right on the dot, my friend. Just saying whatever, and they ain't got to worry about nothing, and it's a good thing, like when you hear from the higher up, basically from Dave Lawler, who's like basically the head man in charge when it comes to PR and the UFC. Then it just makes you feel a little bit better that you're not going to say anything. And you still have to watch out. I mean, I can't just go out there and say a whole bunch of other stuff, but I say what's on my mind, and people either love it or hate it.
And just because, sorry, Dennis, just because Dave Lawler, you pretty much have permission to start brawls at Wayne's now and stare downs.
Exactly.
Now let's quickly go back to the video game world. Does this ever carry over into the video game world for you? You've mentioned that you never really talk trash while playing games because you're too focused. You are a focused man, and we've seen that in your fighting. But have you ever had any situations online where you've had some interesting conversations with fans or haven't been able to keep your politeness as much as you have during your sort of UFC interviews?
I haven't, but my friends, I've been in the chat room with those guys, and they've been going off on other players, and I just sit there and laugh just because they're hella pissed off about it. And they're just like, hey, man, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting there laughing, and they're like, dude, how old are you? Then the guy, man, you think it's a kid who's talking about, then it turns out to be a grown-ass man. He goes, man, this game sucks, and I'm just whooping you guys' butt. So I never get into any back-and-forth banter between each other. I just let those guys do it.
Are your friends called Matt Hume?
No, Matt doesn't do that.
You can imagine Matt playing Call of Duty like, fuck you, man.
Yeah, I doubt Matt would do that just because, his kids like to hear him play and watch him play. And Matt would not go that far because in his kids, he'll be sleeping downstairs, and the next thing you know, he hears his kids saying exactly what he was saying.
Yeah, no, Matt's a stand-up guy. Let's talk about the big fight itself. It's less than a month away. How's training going so far, and is everything on track for September 5th?
Yeah, training's going good. Everything's on track for September 5th. We're feeling good, and, I mean, if we have to fight tomorrow, I'll be able to make the weight, go out there and perform very well. Now, we just have 3 weeks left, so now it's just about fine-tuning everything, make sure I stay healthy, and going out there and executing. That's it.
Well, you've mentioned to us that you're a very busy man these days, obviously a father as well, amongst other things, being a UFC champion, of course. Take us into a typical day for you. What does a typical day for Mighty Mass look like?
Oh, man, I tell you what, one, it's kids and, life itself and training. So, typically, the days, I wake up in the morning, head to the gym around 10 o'clock, and I start my strength and conditioning at 11 o'clock. And then I usually get done about 1:30. And I go out and eat lunch at the same place, Siraki Madness, and after that I go back to the gym and just relax. And lately I've been playing video games just because I'm trying to kill time between training sessions. And then next session starts at 5 o'clock. We'll go in there, hit pads, maybe watch a little video, drill some technique, and then drive on home and have dinner with the family and, take care of their kids, put them to bed, and go to bed and wake up dirty all over again. So just normal day in the life of Demetrious Johnson. Trying to make a living.
It never stops. It's training, kids, teriyaki madness. It's non-stop. You're obviously facing John Dodson in a rematch from your original fight in 2013. Now, not only have you never lost a rematch, but you generally dominate your opponents even more the second time. The second fight against Ian McCall was more decisive, and the second time you fought Joseph Benavidez, you brutally knocked him out. Do you think you'll continue the trend against John Dodson and beat him even more decisively the second time?
That's the goal. I mean, we're training extremely hard. When I'm hitting pads, when I'm sparring, I'm pushing myself. I'm not doing it, nice and relaxed and calm and being comfortable. A lot of people get a little misunderstood about what's it called to have good cardio. And good cardio is when you're able to push the distance, push the rounds, push the fight. And I've shown that in all my previous fights where when I go out there, even on the champion, like GSP said, you had to come out there and take the belt. I don't give my opponents a chance to take the belt. I go out there and I take away their opportunity to take my belt away from me. So that's what I'm looking to do September 5th.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, John Dodson has said that cardio was his biggest issue when the two of you fought originally. Do you think that's true? Do you think that a John Dodson with a bigger gas tank would give you any problems?
That's where I think a lot of people are blinded, and I think he's blinded as well. If he thought that my cardio was the biggest thing that was his downfall in that fight, he should go back and rewatch it.
In saying that, he's one of the only guys that's given you any trouble at flyweight, and he had success early in the fight when the two of you fought. What do you make of that? And would you say that he's your toughest test to date?
Yeah, I'll say it was a tough fight, and I don't want to say it's the toughest fight to date. It's a fight. You're going to get hit. You're going to get dropped. You just got to make adjustments to go out there and take it to him. And granted, the first fight we had with him, it was the very first time I ever fought a southpaw who was fast and explosive. Actually, Joseph Benavidez is southpaw, but Joseph switches back and forth. But on the John Dodson, it was the first time I ever first saw the defense. So with that being said, there's a lot of stuff I had to get used to. But once I was able to get in the fight, make adjustments, once he got tired and stopped running, then I was able to get my hands on him and basically impose my will on him.
I mean, not that many people were impressed with this performance against Zach Makovsky. It was a bit underwhelming, and he was coming back from a second ACL surgery, so there was a lot of factors pointing to that, some ring rust as well. What did you think of that performance? Any conclusions that you could take away from it?
It's really hard just because, like you said, he was coming off that first, his ACL surgery, and he was gearing to fight a teammate. So I thought the fight couldn't go either way to Zach Makovsky. I thought Zach Makovsky looked better. I felt like his right hand found the mark a little better. But when I go back and watch the fight, I can see how the judges kind of gave to Dodson. So it wasn't, a very exciting fight, but it was a great fight, and it's hard to come off a layoff like that.
Well, what do you make of John Dodson's confidence leading up to this fight? Because it seems like he's talking about your fight as if it's a foregone conclusion that he'll win, and already talking about fighting bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw for the belt after you guys fight.
Doesn't bother me one bit. It has nothing to do with me when it comes to my training, the way I think about the fight, how I'm approaching the fight. He can say whatever he wants, talk about whatever he wants, think very high of himself. It does absolutely nothing for me.
Yeah, well, here's your chance to use your James Bond license to kill. Because recently he said, and I quote, DJ has been a plague in our division, keeping us from stardom. I mean, shots fired, man. What do you respond to something like that with?
Nothing at all. Like I said, that's his opinion. And obviously, if I was a plague in the division, I wouldn't have way more Twitter followers than he does, Instagram followers. I wouldn't have been selected to be in the UFC flyweight tournament. So I think when he just says that stuff, it's just him just trying to, ruffle my feathers. And guys, it does not bother me one bit.
Well, it's interesting. He's the one sort of talking about moving up in weight, but, if you continue to defeat challenges at this rate, you may very well clean out the division. If that happens, how likely is it that you think we'd see you move back up to bantamweight, even if only to have a crack at TJ Dillashaw in a super fight?
For me, I'm focused on getting the most title defenses in the UFC for men, and right now I'm at 6, and I got 4 more to go to even hit that mark, so I got 5 more to go just to break that record, and that's my goal right now. Once I beat that and I beat that record and my name's in there, then I'll be more opted to move up to bantamweight. Right now I'm just trying to write my name as many times as I can in the history book.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, that history book is going to run out of pages soon, Demetrious, so you're going to have to be careful. Yeah. You told TJ Dillashaw when you ran into him earlier in the year that you'd fight him, and that you told everybody you'd do it for $2 million. Everybody had a good laugh and a bit of a smile. But just wondering, did you actually discuss it with Dana White? Is that the price that possibly will cost to see Demetrious Johnson versus TJ Dillashaw?
Yeah, I mean, me and TJ, we're cool. Like, there's no animosity between each other at all. Me and him always hang out with each other each time we have UFC gigs together, and we get along very, very well with each other. And, you know, I told the UFC, I told Dana White that straight up. And then, you know, me and him had some laughs back and forth. And, you know, last time I was in Vegas, I told this guy, I was like, so, if I get past this one, what's going to happen? He goes, I don't know, maybe go do what he does. And I was like, well, you guys don't remember, so holler at me if you guys want to make it happen.
Wait, this is a conversation you had with Dana White. This is what you said to him, right?
Yeah, Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta.
And Lorenzo. And that's at that point you said, well, $2 million is the price, right?
Yep.
Why? I'm curious, why so much to move up? And would you do it for less?
For me, I'm just trying to make, like, fighters have a short opportunity to make as much money as possible. And this is going to be the biggest fight of my life. This is going to be the biggest, probably,
poverty killer?
Thing in my career. Well, I don't want to say that. I just want to say it's the biggest thing in my career that I've ever done. And I think, you know, obviously, when I am going up in weight and I'm, you know, I don't want to, since I haven't been defeated since I fought Dominic Cruz, and me going up to fight TJ Dillashaw, there's a you know, potential chance I would lose that fight. So I'm trying to cash out and make some money on this super fight because I know the UFC would do very good numbers with it, and then it will also, I mean, it'll be a sold-out crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Too bad Conor McGregor can't get down to a lighter weight because that would be a super fight I'd love to see. But before we let you go, champ, we just want to get a prediction from you. How's the fight going to go, and how are you officially beating John Dodson on September 5th at UFC 191? Take us into the future. Let us know how it's going to happen.
You know what? I've never looked into the future. I have never done it since I was an amateur, and I won't start doing it now. But the training's going good. I'm feeling good. Just right now, just fine-tuning everything, and can't wait to go out there and put on a great show.
Well, we can't wait to watch it, guys. It's going to be September 5th, UFC 191, John Dodson versus Demetrious Johnson. Don't forget to follow Demetrious Johnson on Twitter at Mighty Mouse UFC. And Demetrious, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, guys. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me back on.
Hey, this is Rich Franklin. Don't get submitted. Listen to Submission Radio.
Joining us on Submission Radio is Tough 8 winner and one of the top contenders in the UFC Light Heavyweight Division, a one-time Submission of the Night winner. He will be fighting Rashad Evans at UFC 192. It's a pleasure to welcome back Ryan Darth Bader to Submission Radio. Ryan, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, guys. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, it's always great having you on. I feel like it's been too long now. The last time you were on the show, you told us a story about how your dune buggy caught on fire and blew up. Legend has it that the fire from the explosion could be seen from outer space. You can actually see the video with some footage on the YouTube channel. Any more near-death experiences or experiences involving spontaneously combusting vehicles recently?
No, been pretty lackluster, actually. Pretty safe, so not much to report back.
Oh my God! Come on, Ryan. We expect more from you, but that's okay. You got a big fight. You've got a big fight coming up, so I guess it's understandable. I guess we'll give you a pass for this one.
I got to tone it down a little bit.
You've got an excuse for staying safe.
Yes, sir.
Now, Ryan, if we were betting men, we'd put down some coin on you having the title shot after the run-in you had with Daniel Cormier at the post-fight press conference. You were passed over, however, for Alexander Gustafsson. It's old news now, but we never did get to ask you. What was your reaction when you found out?
I was surprised, pretty much. You know, he was coming off a loss, not even a loss, a knockout loss to the guy that just lost for the championship, you know, in Anthony Johnson. So, yeah, I was surprised to say the least. You know, so there's nothing really I could do. You know, I pleaded my case, and then going forward, it was like, okay, well, he has it, so who's next? And we got offered Rashad, which, you know, if we didn't get that title shot with Cormier, that was probably the next best fight, you know, I'd guess, because, you know, Gustafsson's tied up. He's got the title shot. You know, Rashad has been champion before. He's top 5, you know, and so, you know, he's one of those guys also that I would like to fight before, you know, he's done or whatnot. So, made perfect sense other than getting the title shot. So not want to sit there and cry about it or anything like that. So move on. Got a good fight in front of us. I'm excited about this one. I'm looking to go out there and leave no doubt in anybody's mind that I'm next in line.
Well, that's exactly right. And I mean, we can hear the disappointment in your voice when you talk about that Gustafsson, getting the title shot. So sorry for bringing it up. I just got to ask you though, does it make you question what is the point of having rankings? If a guy coming for brutal loss, like you mentioned, is getting a title shot, and did you speak with Dana White or the UFC about it?
Yeah, I kind of knew that going in, and how things have been going as far as the rankings. They don't really mean too much. You can have the last two guys in 205-pound divisions are coming off a loss, getting a title shot. I did pick up the phone and call Dana, and just asked him, and like I said, pleading my case, gave him, what I thought, and told him, if there's any reservations about, fighting style or anything, I'm going to go out there to try to take that belt and try to finish the guy in front of me, and all that kind of stuff. And just said they were going with Gustafsson, and that if I get through Rashad, nobody can really deny me not getting the title shot. So that's where it stood, and I tried to have them reconsider, but their mind was pretty much set on that. So just moving forward, it's Rashad. That's it. Past the past. I'll catch up with those guys later. Hopefully after this fight.
Yeah, certainly. And just wondering, Ryan, in that conversation with Dana, did he say that after your next fight with Rashad, you would be getting the title shot next, or was he still not very committal on when you'd be able to get your title shot next?
It was more of along the lines of nobody can kind of deny that you deserve it. So there's nowadays there really is no guaranteed title shot. You have the guaranteed title shot next. There's none of that. Somebody can get hurt or whatnot when they have the matchup ready to go, and if something happens to the other guy, you never know. So it's all about, it's real cliche and everything, but it's all about the one in front of you. You just keep knocking them down sooner or later. You'll get your shot. So, my plan is to go out there, make it 5 in a row, but not only make it 5 in a row, make a statement, put away a guy like Rashad, who's been a champion, that's, one of the best guys in the world, top 5 right now. So that's my plan.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, you said it perfectly. We just had Johny Hendricks on before, and I mean, speaking of guys who you think would get a title shot and then not getting him, just want to quote something. Anthony Johnson was in a recent interview, and he said, while he believes you deserve a title shot, he also thinks your style isn't entertaining. And he said, and I quote, he has to go out and start knocking people out instead of just sitting there and waiting and side to side and throwing jabs. Whatever he does, that's not entertaining people. Bader doesn't talk much, and when he fights, it's not that entertaining. What do you think about those comments?
Well, first off, I'm out there using what I'm better than the other people at. I'm going to a lot of times go to my bread and butter, which is wrestling and whatnot. And some of the comments, I do agree. I got to open up more. I got to go out there and, go take it. And that's what I'm definitely starting to realize more and more, that it doesn't matter how many wins in a row you rack up or whatnot. You got to go out there and start finishing people. And, I know that. It's a double-edged sword here. And, you're fighting the best guys in the world. All these guys in the top 10. My last, 3 fights were over top 10 guys. My last one was a top 5 guy, So I'm not fighting bums out there. So, it's you want to win, but you want to do it impressively. And so maybe I got to switch it up a little bit with Rashad and just get after him, try to go take it and take that fight to him, from bell to bell. So, that's my plan. And, I got to go, like I said, I got to go put it in their minds that I deserve the shot after I go out there and beat Rashad.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, it's interesting. Just going back to that conversation that you had with Dana White, did he mention anything about your style? Did he say that he wants you to be more exciting? And do you feel any pressure to switch things up going more into this fight? You just mentioned it, that you will look a bit different against Rashad, and it looks like you will be taking some more risks. But is that something that started with your conversation with Dana, or is it something that started with some of the fan stuff?
He didn't address any of that or anything like that. It's me knowing that at the same time too, but you go back to, I'm fighting the best guys in the world, every time out there, and from little kids, we were taught in wrestling to go out there and at all costs, you got to win. And that's been instilled for me since I was, 5 years old, so I still keep that mentality, with me. Like I said, at the same time, I know the guys out there that are knocking people out, sitting people, those are the type of guys that want to get in those title shots, and I just got to go out there and prove that I can do that. I've done it in the past, and I'll do it again.
Well, here's the thing. Considering that you're on the same card as the title fight between Cormier and Johnson, with a win, Cormier and Gustafsson, with a win, do you see yourself challenging the winner for the shot, possibly in cage, or cutting some kind of promo after the fight, that you do want the winner?
Yeah, absolutely. I go out there and look impressive. There's nobody else that deserves it. So definitely that's that's something I would do. And we don't know who's winning that Cormier and Gustafsson fight. That's where they're fighting too. So, everybody's been asking me like it's a foregone conclusion, like Cormier is going to run through Gustafsson and hopefully I can get my shot. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I have my little beef with Cormier and I want to fight him, but at the end of the day, my goal is the belt. And so I'm happy to fight whoever wins, that fight after us at UFC 192.
It's interesting because this whole thing stemmed from a post-fight press conference that you were at, possibly eating delicious burgers that provide to fighters after the fight. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to play out, but if Cormier does win and you do beat Rashad, you guys will be on the same post-fight press conference together on stage. Has that kind of thought, I know it's sort of jumping ahead, but has that thought crossed your mind? Because that's going to be interesting all in itself, just seeing you guys up there together.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I haven't really thought about that, like going back, like I was saying, I left that in the past. Rashad is the guy right now. I'll start thinking about that after I beat Rashad. But right now, I got a tough task ahead of me in Rashad, and that's who I'm thinking about, who I'm putting my energy into. I'm not putting my energy into any of that, into Cormier or anybody else. I got to go out there and win this fight first, and then I can start thinking about that. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting if we're both there. So we'll see what happens.
You and Rashad, you guys have been beefing over Twitter a bit recently. It started very randomly when you put up a video of you, CB Dollaway, and some other people training at your gym, Power MMA and Fitness. Rashad Evans commented, I believe originally on Instagram and then on Twitter, "This won't help you stop wasting your time." What was your original reaction? And were you surprised that he was, digging deep and hitting you up on Instagram?
Yeah, maybe that's just a little insecurity there. If you check on my Instagram and got a little insecure when he saw me running and training hard, and he proceeded to try to troll me on Twitter and Instagram. I didn't even see his Instagram until later. Somebody told me about something he was tweeting me, and they're on UFC Tonight or something. So him and his little buddy DC MMA and have the little bromance going on, and they're on the UFC Tonight desk or whatever they're doing their analyst stuff and talking about me. So those two can't get my name out of their mouth, so take it as a compliment. But yeah, it was kind of out of nowhere. It just kind of gives me the impression that he's nervous and checking up on me. So whatever it is, he's trying to get at me with some dumb tweets, but whatever. Him and his boy, Cormier. And like I said, if you see the pictures of Rashad recently, he looks like DC. So he's got to worry about himself in camp and worry about getting down to weight first.
Yeah, certainly. It's interesting that you said that. I mean, they were pretty much doing analyst work together at the time. It's funny how it was It's funny how it was DC and Rashad Evans together, both guys who you've had a bit of beef with. Cormier replied to one of the pictures that you responded to, saying that Rashad was looking a bit chunky, like DC. He said, "Really, better. You may want to lay off me. You have big issues to worry about. I guess we will never fight now." Is it safe to say, I mean, you've already mentioned it, but is it safe to say that DC and Rashad Evans are at the top of your hit list at 205?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Both those two, Yeah, and DC commented on my Instagram, too, when I went back and read it, him and Rashad. Like I said, it's flattering they take the time to get on my Instagram, watch my video, and then make a comment, And so I just laugh at it. They're sitting there giggling, let's tweet it or ha ha ha, and doing that whole thing. So, I'm going to show up that shape of my life, with the most skills I've ever had, looking to take Rashad out on that fight night, and I just believe we're at different times in our careers. I'm this close to having my goal, get a title shot, win that belt. He's been there, done that, and he's at the tail end of his career. maybe looking for a couple more paychecks before he, officially retires and does his analyst work with DC and all that. So I just feel like we're in totally different times. I want it more. I'm more hungry.
It's an interesting theory. He's got his tag team, him and DC. If this is pro wrestling, CB Dollaway will be coming out with a steel chair and running in, and you guys will be the opposing tag team. I just want to sort of explore those comments. You mentioned about how he may be sort of looking to move on. The last few years have not been as smooth for Rashad as before, with injuries and losses. You guys have also shared many of the same opponents in the past. John Jones, Lito Machida, Tito Ortiz, Rampage, Phil Davis, to name a few. Rashad's last loss was actually to Little Nog, a guy you beat at UFC 119, and at 35 years of age. Do you think Rashad is slowing down a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody does at that point, and then coming off 2 ACL surgeries back to back, and try to rehabilitate. And then not only that, get your body back into the mode of, training the whole time. Honestly, I'm surprised if he shows up. And, because your body, if you're not training for 2 years, your body isn't used to the rigors of a training camp, and what you have to put it through to be in that peak physical condition. You can skate by and do just enough, and show up to the fight pretty much unprepared, but you made it. So we'll see how that happens. 2 ACL surgeries in a row is no joke. So especially at his age. So that coupled with the whole deal of ring rust and like I said, we're at 2 different points right now. I'm right there, and I want it. I haven't had my shot yet. So that's, I have a one-track mind to get that.
Yeah, and one of the tweets that Rashad sent to you during the Twitter beef was saying that he thinks the fight is a foregone conclusion and he wants Dana White to send him his money already. Do you think he might be overlooking you a bit in this fight?
Yeah, I think so. He said on the easy fight and all that kind of stuff too, I love it. I love when people overlook me, underestimate me. He's going to be in for a rude awakening, and he's going to realize that I'm not the same fighter he watched even a fight ago. So that's what I look to do. I look to surprise him and everybody else, all the fans, the UFC, and like I was saying earlier, earn that shot and have there be no doubt in anybody's mind that I'm next in line.
I mean, obviously, you're not going to give us your game plan, but let's talk about the matchup itself. You guys are somewhat similar in styles. You're both wrestlers with boxing and you have knockout power. What are the keys to victory against Rashad? What do you think, you can take advantage of to beat him? And given his past injuries with his knees and his legs, he had a lot of knee issues. Is that something you're going to exploit in the fight?
No, I'm not going to actively target, somebody's injury or whatnot, but he's quick. He moves well. He sets up his takedowns pretty well. So do I, and I feel like I can land some shots on him, and he'll realize that 2 years off and not being in that cage, and I've been fighting and winning that whole time when he was sitting out and couldn't do much. So I just believe I'm going to go in there and be aggressive, put it on him. And, he's just not going to want to be in there. So that's, without giving anything away, we're 2 wrestlers with that do strike also. And so you never know how that plays out. Maybe when we both negate each other in wrestling and it becomes a stand-up war, or, maybe somebody takes each other down or whatnot. You never know in a fight, and you never know what you're going to do until you're actually in there and that opportunity arises.
Yeah. Well, switching gears, you guys have had recently an influx of fighters move over to your gym, Power MMA and Fitness. A big influx of fighters. Amongst those is the new featherweight Miles Jury, former Bellator champion Michael Chandler, Justin Lawrence, Johnny Case, Luis Saldana. What's going on? What's the secret? You guys must be doing something different over at Power MMA. Share your secrets with us, Ryan. Yeah,
we just have a great facility, number one, and great people, great coaching staff and organization. The fighters show up and they don't have to worry about what they're doing other than, I want to go for a jog or whatnot. You show up to the practices and, everything is right there for you. Everything from the team lift to cardio after sparring, sparring the practice with the pro practices. And Aaron Simpson, ex-UFC vet and couple-time All-American wrestler. He was my coach at ASU, and he's taking over that head coaching role. He's been there for a couple of years, now, and he's great. And he has that passion, and he wants to see those guys succeed, and he'll take those guys every day and do one-on-ones with them as far as he'll put on all the gear. Basically, let those guys beat the crap out of them, and so he's great, and I don't think a lot of the guys have that in the MMA game. They have their boxing coach or their jiu-jitsu coach or whatnot, but they don't have anybody that really encompasses it all, organizes it all, and really has that passion and wants to see succeed. So I think that people see that when they came over, and it's great having those guys. It was a great group of guys, and we're only going to keep getting better and growing it.
Yeah, I mean, they all left from Alliance, and you actually used to train at Alliance MMA. Based on your conversation with Miles and the guys, why is everybody leaving Alliance? I know they lost their grappling coach, Neil Melanson, but, it just seems weird. 5 guys all leaving one gym, all going to the other gym. What's the deal there?
Yeah, I have no idea. I never got into that whole deal. I never asked them. They was looking for a place, and we said, hey, come try it out. And they came, tried it out, liked it a lot, and then, here we are. And so, that'll compound too, once people start talking and say, hey, this gym is where it's at. It's like I said, going through that whole thing, great facility, great coaches. It's in Phoenix, Arizona. It's hot now, but it's great, September through May, great weather, so I think people will just start talking, and then we'll just keep on growing this thing and get more and more top-level guys. And so, we're just trying to build something with a great group of guys, number one. No egos. Everybody wants to get better. Everybody's competitive, so, but I never got into that whole thing why they left or anything like that.
Yeah, we have some inside reporters, and apparently it's to do with the fact that the soap was changed in the bathroom to a less popular scent. But we can't confirm or deny that at this point. Ryan, let's do a quick time out.
Get you too.
It's an important part of training, we guess. We're not fighters, so we don't know. But to wrap this whole thing up, we're going to do a submission radio tap out round. Ryan, you know what this is all about. A bunch of fun questions. You answer with the first thing that comes to mind. A bit like word association. So are you ready, my friend?
I think so.
Okay, so as we all know, Ronda Rousey has a porn parody on her created. Now, if there was a porn parody on Ryan Bader, what would the name of the movie be, and who would be playing Ryan Bader?
It would be called Masturbator.
Of course.
And it would be, let's see, maybe something like Mark Wahlberg or something.
That's not bad, except Mark Wahlberg's like half your height. He's like half your height, Mark Wahlberg.
Wear lifts maybe when he's
maybe
you never know, but on the other side.
Maybe John Cena.
The other side's a bit, yeah.
All right. You could, if you've seen Trainwreck, John Cena, he's a bit bigger. I was going to say Channing Tatum. I mean, you guys look, somewhat similar.
There you go, right?
Compliment from Casper.
There you go. There you go.
Maybe like a Brad Pitt. Something, I don't know.
Let's not get too crazy, Ryan. All right, we'll leave it at Channing Tatum.
Oh, man.
Now, next question. Did Miles Jury have to go through any hazing when joining Power MMA and Fitness by you or CB?
No. Like I said, there's no egos at the gym, so we welcomed them, and they're great guys. So, if they came with bad attitudes or something, maybe we'd get on them. But all of those guys, honestly, are great dudes. So they meshed right away, and we're going to do big things with them.
Now, you did a seminar with the Marines. Did you teach them any deadly death chops or death touches?
Ooh, maybe a couple, but, a few elbows and all that, but no little inch punch or anything like that. You don't want to get those guys thinking that something works and they actually think it's serious and do try it out in the field or something, and then, you end up responsible for that. That'd be pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's like I don't want any Marines going out to war that have done Steven Seagal seminars. The guys running at him with a knife and they're trying to touch him on the neck or something to see if they can give him a death touch.
There's no actors in war. Now, what's up with these Arizona Scorpions with baby scorpions on their back, Beta?
Oh yeah, so I was moving a piece of furniture outside. There's scorpions here. Not gonna lie, you go out in your backyard, you have like a little black light. You can go out there and find them on your wall, whatnot.
Jesus.
And you can just, squish them or what, because they'll come in and say if there's a space like a credit card can fit into, they can get into also. So they'll come into the house, whatever. And so I was moving a piece of furniture, I actually touched it a little bit, and it fell off. And I looked at it, I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I realized there was babies and all that on its back.
Oh, my
And
God.
so if something like that, you can't squish it because all the babies will run off. And so I have a little kind of blowtorch thing that like plumbers would use. I specifically bought for scorpions and fired that thing up and toasted it up a little bit.
How'd it taste?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was crispy because I kind of made sure it was definitely all the babies and everything were gone. But yeah, it was pretty nasty. And then pretty much all that night I was just itching, thinking about how many more of those are around. So literally you can go out in the backyard and probably get at least 5 every other night.
Sell the house. You don't need to be there anymore. It's too many bad memories.
I always
everywhere though.
I always worry when I do that like the scorpions know, like that they know that I killed a whole batch of them, and they're gonna find me while I'm asleep and like take care of me.
They're like this motherfucker burned down.
Yeah, exactly.
He killed Johnny
mom and babies.
Yeah.
The mom was take her babies over across the way.
He killed Ray Ray.
No, I don't care. I'll straight up say that I burned them all alive. The scorpions, if you saw that thing was nasty.
Well, hopefully the scorpions are listening to the show, so they'll know not to mess with you.
Yeah, they just unfollowed me on Twitter.
Yeah,
and subscribe to us on YouTube. This is a great crossover. Speaking of babies, how are your kids going, Ryan? What's been going on with them? Give us some updates.
Yeah, they're all good. We have 3 and a 3.5, so it's crazy. We have a boy and then a girl that's 11 months to the day younger, and then 11-month-old. So it's wham, bam, bam. But they're all good. They're the older ones are starting to get involved in different things, and I'll take the older one to the gym, getting them in a little wrestling practice, and kind of getting to the age where they're getting more fun and wanting to come out and do stuff. So everything's good on that aspect and in life in general. So I'm just that side is all handled. So I have to handle the other side, which is Rashad, and then getting my title shot and winning that belt. So the other side's on me, and I'm working towards that.
When can we expect them to have their first UFC fight? Will it be this summer, or do we have to wait? And could they be a contender for Ronda Rousey?
Honestly, yeah, the girl's the toughest one. She's the middle child in between 2 boys, and she's definitely the meanest one. She brings it up in a level. If the boy goes and picks on her, like pinches her or something, she'll go literally try to claw his eyes out. He has blood coming out of his face sometimes, so we have to, obviously stop that. But she's the one to, if you come with your fist, she'll bring it back, kind of deal.
She's been watching Husma Paul Harris at World Series of Fighting 22.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's awesome. What a perfect segue. You mentioned Rashad Evans. He's the one thing that you're thinking about now. How do you? I know you're not a fan of predictions, but we have to ask. What's the official prediction? How do you plan on beating Rashad Evans at UFC 192?
I don't know what it's going to be, but I look to go out there and finish him, and earn my shot. So I'm gonna call a finish. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm going to make it happen.
Well, there you guys go. Watch Ryan Bader fight Rashad at UFC 192 October 3rd in the US and 4th in Australia. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Bader. Thank you very much for your time, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.
Hi guys, it's Joanna Hendricks, UFC strawweight champion. Listen to Submission Radio.
All right, guys, our next guest will be taking on the role of UFC female bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey in a porn parody titled Ronda Arouse Me. She's got over 63 scene credits to her name. Today, she's kind enough to join us on Submission Radio. Kleio Valentien, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Well, we're very excited to have you here as well, Kleio. Now, before we discuss the big film, we want to talk a bit about how you got to this point. What was it that got you into the adult industry, and how old were you when you first got into it?
I was 23, just about to turn 24. I don't know, I was watching BurningAngel.com, and I just was really intrigued with all of the tattooed girls on there. And I just sent in a model application, and like a couple weeks later, I was flying out to LA to shoot for them.
That's interesting. You know, we read a little bit about you, and it seems like you came from a country town. You come from Texas. You say you were watching BurningAngel.com. How did you stumble upon it? Because most girls that we know, they're not really porn enthusiasts. You know, were you always watching it? How did you find it?
I just typed in in Google search tattooed porn, pretty much.
Right. That's what you do.
It's pretty deliberate. It sounds like it was pretty. It's like, you know, with Google these days, you'll type anything in and some kind of porn will pop up. So we thought maybe it would have been one of those situations.
No, I didn't happen to stumble upon it. It wasn't like whenever you're watching something on YouTube and you start out with one thing and you end up on cats 5 minutes later somehow.
These cats, man, I'm telling you, they're making money. They need to share some of that cat money with us. Now, let's get back to you. So obviously, as Casper mentioned, you're sort of from the country. I mean, there's so many girls out there with a similar story where, you know, I was sort of from the country. I was sort of a church girl. Just wondering, what is it about being from a small country town that leads lots of girls into porn?
I don't know about for other people, but for me, living in a small town where there's nothing to do, there's we didn't even have 24-hour Walmart. Wow. You had to go two towns over to go to Walmart type thing. There was nothing there. So the only thing that we did was, hang out by a barn, make a campfire and have sex. So
Oh, we grew up in the wrong town, it seems like.
We thought maybe it was something to do with Sunday Mass, because we were like, what is it about religion and church-going girls that, makes them want to do porn? It seems like Sunday Mass is the thing.
Maybe for some people. It wasn't for me, though. It was just because there was nothing else to do, and so that was something that we always, that was something that I did a lot, and I don't know. I was very open about everything, so it just kind of happened.
Well, here you are now, like we mentioned, you've got over 63 credits to your name, you've done a whole bunch of films. What were your parents' reactions when you told them that you'd be making adult films?
I didn't come straight out and tell them. They kind of found out from someone else type thing. But they're surprisingly supportive. I honestly didn't think it was going to turn out as well as it did, but they're very supportive of me, that I'm doing something that I like and I enjoy doing, and that I'm safe and that I'm having a good time and I'm able to provide for myself.
Yes, and that's not something that a lot of people can say, doing a career that they enjoy and being happy with their life. I'm just wondering, obviously you're a big star in the industry. Do you get a lot of people coming up to you on the street sort of recognizing you, and how does that sort of go down?
I feel like the most times that I have someone coming up to me, it's when I'm in the grocery store and I've just gone swimming or something, and so I have my bathing suit on, my hair's pulled up and it's all soaking wet and I look like a drowned rat or something, I feel like. And they're like, "Oh, you're that girl?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." They're like, "Can I take a picture with you?" I'm like, "Really, right now?"
Is it ever
Sure.
Is it ever awkward for you being recognized in the grocery store when you're just kind of minding your own business, doing your own thing? And also, what's the conversation like? Because I imagine if we met fighters in the street, we'd be like, "Hey, I love that fight. Where you won via armbar." What's the conversation like where you meet fans?
Most of the time it's just "I love what you do. Thank you. It's awesome." I've met couples before, and they're like, "You've really improved our sex lives," which is probably my favorite thing that someone's ever came up to me and told me that, because I was like, "Wow, that's awesome. A couple watches this together. That's awesome." But mostly it's just, thank you. They can't they don't if they meet me in the grocery store, they're not gonna be like, "I liked you," and tattooed anal chicks number whatever.
Yeah, me and Casper get a lot of people coming up to us saying we've saved their marriage with this program, and we don't even have sex on it, so it's crazy. Let's talk about this movie that's coming out. What was your reaction when you got offered the role of playing Ronda Rousey in this parody?
I was really excited about it. I love watching UFC. I used to love watching Pride. I grew up first watching boxing, and then whenever all of the MMA fights started coming around a whole lot and being publicized, I started watching that. So getting to play a role of, a woman who is badass and kicks ass, I was like, yes, of course, I would love to. But, it is a parody, so we also poke fun and stuff, not at the people, but, play on names and stuff like that. And we also poke fun at the idea of we're making a parody of this, so we're poking fun at it ourselves as well.
It's amazing that you're so into MMA, and you mentioned Pride, which for any hardcore MMA fan is like, boom, seal of approval, she's a real fan. I want to get your opinion because Ronda Rousey, she's garnered a lot of attention since her big break in the sport and is ushering in the more female fans than arguably anyone in the past. For years, the sports fan base has largely been, of a male demographic. From a woman's perspective, what is it that you like about mixed martial arts? What exactly drew you to it?
For me, I enjoyed watching the fights. Like I said, I grew up watching boxing whenever I was younger with my grandfather and my dad as well. So I was always into that itself. But like whenever, I saw that, there's women out there and they can be just as strong as the men and put on a great show as well as a great fight. It was just really awesome.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those interesting forms of entertainment where so many skills go into it. Ronda Rousey is certainly someone that's looked, a big icon for a lot of women around the world. Were you nervous at all living up to the expectations and playing such an important role?
Like I said, in all the Burning Angel parodies, it's not so much where you have to be exactly the same character. A lot of it is, poking fun at things and, making it humorous and sexy at the same time. So a lot of people I've had be like, oh, she doesn't look exactly like Ronda. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I'm sorry I don't look exactly like her. I don't look as hot as her. She's fucking like fit as hell and amazing. So sorry, I can't be like that.
No, you definitely don't have to be sorry. Your character's name in the film is Ronda Arouse Me. Misha Tate's character is Misha Taint. I'm just curious, who came up with those names? And also, in the film, are Misha and Ronda fierce rivals in real life, or are you guys lovers?
This was actually the first time that we, like me and the person who was playing that, that we've ever met. So in the thing, but we do fight and then end up, I win, obviously, and have sex with her. So
that's what everybody wants to hear.
Let me ask you something. There's other sort of names in Ronda's life, like her longtime coach Edmund Traverdian and also Dana White. Are any of those roles in the movie? Is there a Dana White and an Edmund in the movie as well?
I have my coach in there. We don't actually establish who it is exactly. There's no name. Same thing with there's no exact name like Dana White or anything, but there's, we have Joanna and her small hands is the other person who plays the commentators during the fight and so forth. So
Joe Rogan will not be a part of this project.
Unfortunately not.
But there is a Joe Rogan-like character, correct?
Correct, yes.
Wow, didn't know that. That's hilarious. Now, Ronda recently did a Reddit AMA, obviously Ask Me Anything, and revealed that Ronda Arouse Me was actually her nickname in school. Did you know about this by any chance, or was it just a coincidence?
It was a coincidence. I didn't know about it. Maybe Joanna and them had already known about that somewhere whenever they were writing the script. I'm not really sure, but I personally did not know that.
Well, Ronda was actually pretty cool with the film being made, and she said at least some girl somewhere is paying her bills with a nickname now. Were you guys worried at all that the film might cause backlash at all and that you guys might be getting a stern letter in the mail? And also, have you gotten any feedback from her personally just yet?
I personally have not gotten any feedback from her. I'm glad that she is not angry about it and that she's a good sport about it and she knows that it's all in good fun. We have had some people who are angry about it, who think that, she has worked really hard to be more than just a good woman fighter, but a great fighter in general. That we are sexualizing her too much and stuff. So, there's always going to be certain people who are angry about parodies. And I mean, what can I say? It's just it's what's going to happen. We just, you take the good with the bad and just go with it.
Yeah, of course. These days, if you're famous, you're going to have a parody made about you. I'm curious. You said you've had some people that haven't been too happy. Who are these people? Is it anyone big or is it just people on Twitter?
It's just mostly people on Twitter, which is, people are really big and strong behind their Twitter and their Instagram. They'll talk a lot of stuff, but in person, they probably would never say the things that they say online. So, not too worried about it. It's pretty much with anything that you do. Someone's going to be angry about it, I feel like, at least in this type of industry.
Yeah, the main thing is that people care, right? So that's important.
Yeah, people are talking about it. It's gotten a lot of press. It's been picked up by so many different things. I mean, you know, even if it's bad press, you know, it's press. People are going to look at it now.
Well, we've seen how Ronda prepares for a fight with about 2-3 month training camp, sparring, strength conditioning, and dieting. What's it like preparing for a scene or starring in an adult film? Is there anything specific required, or do you guys sort of show up?
I guess it depends on your director that you have. If you get, you know, your script like months in advance, you start trying to get really into character for certain things. But for some things that are just fun and easy, you know, you kind of go in and just go for it and see how it turns out, I guess. For this one, we did have a person who actually is a fighter, not professionally or anything like that, but he does MMA and stuff. And so he helped choreograph certain fight moves and such. So it was a lot of fun getting to work with that.
Oh, it's good that there's some authenticity there. I got to ask you, Claire, what's the hardest thing about starring in an adult film? Because, you know, even though scenes usually don't go for very long, we hear they actually usually take quite a long time to shoot. And I just sort of add to it, I remember years ago, I was reading, I think, FHM or some magazine, and there's an interview with Rocco Siffredi, who, for those who don't know, famous male porn star, who's talking about some of the difficulties in industry and shooting scenes, saying that he'd be there for hours and hours with dudes standing over him with, like, hot lamps and, you know, guys behind the camera, like, sipping juice boxes, making comments. Meanwhile, he's there in front of him naked doing his work. So it seems like a hard job. What do you think, what would you say is the hardest part about, you know, starring in an adult film?
It is a long time on set. You're there, you know, depending on what you're going to be shooting for the day. You can be there easily 12 hours.
Wow.
I've been on set over 24 hours on set before without any like actual breaks, other than like trying to like grab a spoon of peanut butter and a banana and a bottle of water. And it is long hours some days. Some days you're lucky enough where you can get in and out pretty fast, roughly around 5 to 6 hours. But yeah, it's really hot. You can't turn on the air conditioner anywhere. You can't have any type of fan blowing because it'll be picked up on any type of all of our sound systems and stuff like that. So it gets really hot. You have people with lights holding them on you. You have 2 different camera guys who's standing there, and then you have someone else, you know, with a reflector trying to reflect light onto you, and all of that with no AC. And you're trying to have sex, and you get really hot and really sweaty, and you're like begging for water by the end of it, pretty much.
I feel like fighters who have a hard time cutting weight should just get into the porn industry, and they probably ought to make the weight a lot easier. Do a couple of scenes. I got to ask you, though, 24 hours, like, this is probably why we're not in the business. I can't imagine what you would do for 24 hours. There's the sex, you got to take photos, you got to record. What was it that you were doing for so long that made you stay in the scene for 24 hours?
Between dialogue, changing sets, changing, you know, lighting, just retakes on certain fight scenes and stuff like that. It wasn't necessarily for this one that we were there for 24 hours. We were there for, I think, like 17 hours, so it wasn't too bad this time. But, you know, a lot of things go on. If the lighting isn't just right, then you have to change it. You know, you set up different lights for photos and you set up different lights for the video as well. So that all has to be taken down and put back up each time for anything that's different.
Yeah, certainly. Now, we hear in the movie Ronda's signature move. Obviously, everybody knows her real-life move is the arm bar. In the movie, it's called the dick bar. What's the deal? What exactly is it? And does somebody's dick get broken in the movie?
Well, it was actually, I think that was like a mistake. It's the tip bar.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So, no dicks were broken, thank God.
So nipples were broken.
No dicks are broken. Tits are actually are intact, so we're good on that too. No one actually was broken during the making of this film.
Okay, good. That's what we wanted to clarify. We'll have to watch it to find out what exactly happens. Gonna ask you, Claire, you know, back in the day, porn was all about storytelling and looking like a film, I'm told, because I don't watch porn. Now it's more to the point. What do you prefer? Do you find it more enjoyable playing a character, or do you prefer arriving on set and just going, boom, here it is, straight to the point?
Some days whenever I just, I don't have the energy for a whole long day on set, it's nice to just go in and shoot a scene and then leave. But I really do enjoy getting to play a character, and it's fun. It's something different. It's not like your everyday just gonna walk in and I'm gonna meet my scene partner and shoot a scene and then leave. So it breaks up the monotony of everything, actually having to do something other than just have sex.
Well, speaking of characters, we've seen you dressed up as Harley Quinn, who of course is a villain from the Batman universe and Joker's longtime on again, off again girlfriend. For all the nerds out there like us, what was it like playing Harley Quinn, and did you have to dig deep for your inner crazy?
Whenever I submitted so many different auditions for that movie. I went in for the live audition. I submitted my own video audition as well. The part was already given to another person, and I was just really adamant about having that part. So I was really excited when I actually got the part, and I asked him immediately for the script so that I could study for it. He gave it to me about 2 months in advance, and I studied every single day until the day of that I had to be on set. And even while I was on set, I was standing. I actually asked him if I could use his production, like his room that he would go and sit and like write stuff down for everything while he was producing everything. And I actually asked him if I could use his room because it was the only room that had a mirror in it, so I could stand there and like perfect like my characteristics and everything that I was doing and my facial expressions and try to really get into character. It was a wonderful thing to get to be a part of.
Yeah, you went the whole Heath Ledger experience where you really sort of locked yourself away. Funny confession, though, it was actually us that auditioned for Harley Quinn, and we got the role, and you actually took it away from us, so thanks a lot, Claire.
Yeah, thanks, Claire.
Sorry.
In all seriousness, though, I mean, suffice it to say, you'd be pretty pumped for the Suicide Squad movie, right?
Yes. I saw the trailer for it, and it was amazing.
Who do you think? Who do you think is well, I know you haven't seen the movie, or no one has, but who do you think who's going to be a better Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie or yourself? Do you think you could have been in there playing her?
She's a really great actress. I'm not going to say that she's not going to be good at it. I think she's going to be really great. I mean, I am not an actress. And I don't claim to be. I'm not going to say that I'm like the best at acting or anything, because I'm not. That is what she does. So she has it hands down.
Yeah, for sure. But she wouldn't be good in a porn movie, that's for sure. So you got her there. Now, let's talk about some tattoos that you've got. You've got a bat symbol tattooed on the back of each thigh. I'm just wondering, what's the story there? Is that anything to do with Batman? Is it because you're a big fan, or is it unrelated?
It's because I'm a fan of Batman. I love Batman. So that's the reason for those.
Okay, we got to ask you then. What do you think about Ben Affleck as Batman? Was it the right move, and do you think he'll make a good Batman?
I think it's something that we just have to see and find out. Everyone was, really upset whenever Heath Ledger was going to play Joker. So, and then it turned out that it was amazing.
Yeah, I was really upset with that. Do you have a favorite Batman out of the ones that have been around? What's your favorite one?
I grew up and I had older cousins and everything, and so I grew up watching Adam West as Batman.
Oh, Adam West, wow. Not a fan of Michael Keaton as Batman?
No, I love Michael Keaton. I'm not saying I don't love him. I do, but I'm saying that was what I grew up watching, was Adam West as Batman. So that was really what started me with my Batman fantasy and everything.
Okay, good. Just had to confirm, because Dennis would be most upset if you were hating on the Michael Keaton. Now, we're going to wrap up, Kleio, with the Submission Radio Tap-Out Round. It's what we call, basically, we just ask you a whole bunch of fun questions. We run through it pretty quickly. This is the getting to know you round, and a bunch of silly questions. You answer with the first thing that comes to mind, kind of like word association. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure am.
Okay, interview wouldn't be complete without this question. What is your favorite sex position?
Doggy.
Who is the hottest MMA fighter? We'll take one male, one female.
Well, I'm just gonna say Ronda Rousey and fuck. I don't know. I have no fucking idea right now.
What about Luke Rockhold?
Uriah Faber.
Uriah Faber. Yeah.
What about Luke Rockhold? He's a good-looking guy, right?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Luke Rockhold. You can have to fight for the title, but not here. What is the biggest misconception about the adult film industry, Kleio?
That we don't know about anything other than how to have sex.
What's your favorite body part?
Or part of your body?
I like hands.
Hands. Your hands, though? In specific, like, what is your favorite part of your body?
Of my body?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like my hands.
When you say hands, what makes a good hand? I mean, we're leg men ourselves. What makes for a good hand?
And do you notice? Do you look out for hands?
I like men's hands who have like calluses on them. That's what I like. Big, strong man hands with calluses. Not saying I have calloused man hands.
Yeah.
That's what I like on a man.
Oh, there you go. The gym junkies have that set. What's your favorite scene that you've done to date?
To date would have to be my Harley Quinn scene with the Joker and with Catwoman.
Wow.
Is it hard dating when you're an adult film star?
Not personally for myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Maybe for other people.
we can imagine it could get complicated. What makes a man a good lover? Other than the sweet hands.
Listening to their partner and slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, everything's so fast-paced these days. On your Instagram description, it says you like to cook, run, and have a good time. What's your specialty dish?
Barbecue.
Yeah, we love barbecue. There's a massive American barbecue movement here in Melbourne, Australia. All right, one of the final questions, right? If you had to sleep with one of the following ladies' men, who would it be, right? We've picked some of the biggest ladies' men in all of TV, so choose one from this list. It's actually a pretty big list. Joey Tribbiani from Friends. We've got Vincent Chase from Entourage, Charlie Harper from 2.5 Men, Hank Moody from Californication, Glenn Quagmire from Family Guy, Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother, or our personal pick, Sterling Archer from Archer.
All of them? Do I have to pick one?
You can pick multiple, or you can do a top 3.
No, I just lost half the thing in my head, what you just said.
I'll go one more time.
Californication.
Yeah.
The dude from Friends.
And the guy from Family Guy, Glenn Quagmire.
Yes, of course. You can't leave them out.
Now, let me just ask you, me and Cass, we're always wondering what to do next. If we were to quit Submission Radio tomorrow and get into porn, what would be your biggest tip for us?
Shave your butt crack.
Well, that's a no-go there, so I don't think we'll ever make it.
Career won't work out. Second last question. If you could do a scene with any female in the UFC, who would it be?
In the UFC?
If one of the females went, you know what? MMA is not for me. I'm going to be a porn star. Who would you choose? Who would you hope it to be?
I would definitely say Ronda. If I could ask her out on a date, I would totally do that. Ronda, if you ever listen to this, please go out on a date with me.
Oh, wow.
I think that'd be a good date, but you got to prepare with your judo just in case. Now, to finish this thing out, basically me and Casper have one last question. We're going to test your porn trivia. We're going to read out some titles, and you have to tell us which ones are actual pornos and which ones are made up, okay? So me and Casper are going to go title to title, and then you guess which ones are real and which ones are made up, okay?
Okay.
All right, so the first one is Thomas the Wank Engine. Real or fake?
Fake.
She's got it correct. Thomas the Wank Engine is not a title. We just made it up. Or our writers made it up. All right, the next one, all right? Edward Penis Hands. Real porno or fake?
Real?
Yes, it's real.
She's good at this. How about this one? I think it might be an easy one, but we'll throw it in here anyway. Everybody Does Raymond. Real or fake?
Real?
That's right. 3 for 3 so far.
Yes!
All right, next one. Beverly Hills Cock. Real or fake?
Fake.
It is fake. Jesus, that's 4 for 4. We've got a work cut out for us.
You're like a historian when it comes to this. All right, next one. Ball Street. Real or fake?
Fake?
No, it's real.
It's real.
It's real. Yeah. There was a Ball Street. All right, here's your chance to get back on the horse. Adam Sandler's Punch Drunk Fucking. Is it real or fake?
Oh, fake?
No, it's real. It really was. There really is a porno out there called Adam Sandler's Punch Drunk Fucking. I think of
Damn
Adam
it.
Sandler's
I'm gonna
Punch
have to
Drunk
look this
Fucking.
up.
Yeah. You can check these out afterwards.
The final one, and this one is worth for all the points. So if you get this one right, we'll forgive you for these ones that you got wrong. But if you get this one wrong, I'm afraid you can't claim to be the most knowledgeable porn historian out there. Okay,
Oh,
here we go.
man. You're putting all the pressure on me.
This is for the title. Imagine you're Ronda Rousey and you're fighting for the title. This is it. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
A funny thing happened on the way to the foreskin. Real or fake?
Fake.
Oh, well, I have some good news and some bad news.
Okay.
The good news is that it's been great having you on the show. The bad news is that it is real.
Dang it.
Funny thing happened on the way to the foreskin, believe it or not, is a real porn title. You can check it out. I'm sure a simple Google search will bring it up. But if you're going to Google anything, check out Ronda Arouse Me or Google Kleio Valentien. You've got an interesting way of spelling your name. Valentine is Valentien. Story there is there was another girl with the Twitter handle already, so you can check her out on Instagram at Kleio Valentien and on Twitter at Kleio Valentien. Check out Ronda Arouse Me. I believe it's coming out soon, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time, Kleio.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, and that basically concludes the interview segment for this episode. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. We did a roundtable discussion fairly recently, and you guys seem to enjoy it. So we're going to be talking about a few topics today. Ronda Rousey, Anderson Silva, and the heavyweight scene in the UFC. We thought, you know what, who better to bring on than one of the best men in Fox Sports? We've got none other than Elias Cepeda joining us for our roundtable discussion. Elias, welcome to the show, man. We've wanted to have you on for a while. How are you?
I'm doing great. So happy to be on, guys. Big fan of the show.
Well, we're a big fan of you, Elias, but we don't have very much time. The episode's been running long, and we've all got to get to places. So we'll kick this thing off. The first agenda to talk about is Ronda Rousey. As Casper mentioned at the beginning, she is number 8 on the Forbes highest paid women athlete list, sports list. A lot of people have been surprised by this, but at the same time, when the figure came out, according to Forbes, she made $3 million in fight purses and $3.5 million in endorsements while repping sponsors like Reebok, Metro PCS, Monster Headphones, Buffalo David Bidden, and Carl's Jr. Now, this is since June 2004 to June 2015. And just to note, she did have 2 fights in that period. One was with Alexis Davis and one was with Kat Zingano. I mean, some people are complaining, saying $6.5 million roughly don't seem enough. Just going to go around to you guys and ask, what did you think? Did you think Ronda Rousey did earn enough? We'll kick it off with you, Elias.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer that athletes like Ronda and many others, you know, you can never really pay them enough for what they do, the work they put in, how good they are, and what they give back to the UFC. I am glad to see her up high on that list. There's very few women on that list that aren't tennis players, so it was cool to see a fighter on there. And you know, I'm curious. One of the big things when I wrote about this briefly this past week, you know, I was optimistic that she's made a lot more. Like you said, that was only from June to June. She just had this last fight, which was probably one of the most successful UFC pay-per-views in history, and hopefully she's getting a decent percentage off of that. So the reported purses and their estimates of or whatever best tidbits they can get from her sponsorships should hopefully only make a piece of that, probably a large piece, but a piece of her overall income. Hopefully she's made a good deal more by selling some pay-per-views. So, yeah, I'd love to see her make more. I am glad that there is at least a fighter on one of those lists.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, you've got to assume that of those figures, there's probably some under-the-table bonuses there, right? Something that hasn't necessarily been disclosed. Just a few points, and I think, Elias, you and I are similar in that we're nice guys, we want everybody to pay more, and, you know, if it was that easy, it'd be fantastic. But I guess the important thing to note is Ronda's become the UFC's biggest star ever, and it's happened in just over 2 years. And, you know, she's done it in single-handedly. Fighters like Chuck Liddell and Lesnar, they needed certain opponents to get big pay-per-view figures. Also, Rousey, I don't think has hit her drawing prime yet or her true potential. So the fact that she's making this much money in the UFC, one of the highest paid athletes or fighters in the UFC, is pretty remarkable, especially when you consider the fact that she is a woman. And I mean, I'm not sexist. I want everybody to get paid equally and all that good stuff. But if you said to someone 3-4 years ago that one of the highest paid fighters in the UFC would be a woman, people would have laughed. And rightfully so, considering how long Dana White has said that, you know, women would never fight in the UFC. So I think it's pretty amazing, and she's really raising the bar and showing what's possible. Dennis, you mentioned she only fought twice. I guess we got to take that into account. So getting about 6 million for fighting only twice in the year. Most of the other stuff she was doing was movies and media. That's pretty amazing. Tennis players, they obviously play a lot more often. She may not have gotten paid much in the movies because she wasn't the draw in those movies. Let's be honest, when you've got Fast and the Furious and, you know, Vin Diesel, Paul Walker's final role, and the Expendables with a massive cast, people aren't lining up to see Ronda Rousey. They're seeing those guys, so it explains why she may not have gotten paid as much. And then, you know, considering that she made $3.5 million from sponsors, if you want to divide that equally into 700,000 each from each sponsor, let's just say hypothetically, considering that Brendan Schaub allegedly makes about 100,000 per fight, and she made 5 times that and only fought twice, that's not bad. Oh, and the final point I want to make is MMA is a small sport in comparison to NFL, tennis, basketball, and soccer. So the fact that someone's making that much money and on the list, I think it's pretty impressive. Dennis, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, some great points made, guys, and I just wanted to also mention that I'm not sure if this actually involves her movie roles. I'm not sure, Elias. We'll have to double-check that. They didn't mention it in the Forbes report. But I was going to say, I agree with all the points that you guys are making, but at the same time, it seems like the name Ronda Rousey and how she's known around the world, how she's almost just worldwide known at this point, it seems like it might be worth more than $6.5 million. But I really think the big test will be next year's report when we see what she pulls from her fights like UFC 190. I'm just curious, what do you guys think when we get the report in next year? Is she going to be in the same spot on the list, or do you expect her to be much higher on the list considering what she's done this year? Elias, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. I think you're right that next year will be a real test, especially because, as you guys mentioned, she's been on the scene for, what, 2 years in the UFC?
Yeah.
Making money. The trajectory is crazy that she's on and that she's taken the UFC along with her. So it'll be really interesting to see how much she improves. I forget the exact numbers of the person right ahead of her, so I don't know if she could make up the difference. I know, Venus Williams is making over $20 million. She's not going to get there. But if Ronda can, increase her income by, 50% or double it, I think that is possible if she keeps winning. She's only getting more and more attention. Her book is going to come out in paperback. I know it may sound silly, but that's going to make a lot of money when it does come out in paperback because it's already a bestseller. And the interest that she's bringing is crazy. I think you guys are right that she might be the biggest star the UFC has ever seen, even though she hasn't yet hit her drawing power potential. She might be getting there now with the amount of sales that UFC 90 is produced, according to guys like Dave Meltzer, who's the best in the business for that type of stuff. But the fact that she gets the mainstream interest that no one really ever has, I don't even think Brock Lesnar has it. The type of traffic numbers we see at Fox Sports are crazy. The type of numbers I hear from other big outlets out there, the newspapers, websites, and the biggest, even bigger than the endemics out there, we're talking Ronda. I mean, I'll just give you guys, a sense of it. You probably heard the same thing. Ronda pulls more than the Super Bowl. Like when she fought in February in '84 in terms of traffic, she gets oftentimes more traffic than the Super Bowl does for searches of related searches and stuff like that. So it's crazy. She, with that type of buzz touching on the mainstream, like you all said, it's a small sport comparatively, but she's touching that mainstream and people are hearing about it. My mother sent me a text message asking about Ronda. I had a buddy in town and his girlfriend was saying, "Hey, have you heard about this Ronda Rousey?" Once people start watching and buying that are just hearing about her, who knows how much money she's going to make.
And you mentioned Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar never had that. I mean, we're massive fans of Brock Lesnar, obviously being former pro wrestling fans, but he never brought out the female audience. You would never have somebody's mother or grandmother, texting, "Oh, did Lesnar fight? Has he fought yet? Has he won yet?" Ronda Rousey's really bringing in that mainstream audience, and the female audience, the MMA, has always somewhat been missing. She's a massive star. I would be very shocked if she is. To me, it's not so much about her moving up in the list. I'd be shocked if she didn't make more money, in the next report. I think she'll definitely make more. I think her star has shone even brighter with her most recent fight that obviously wasn't included in the list. And the next report, she'll make more money. But as far as moving up in the list, I guess it's all relative to who is on that list that year and how much they made. Because you can be a massive star in MMA, but then, compared to other sports like, say, tennis players, there's just more money in that sport to be doled around. And I think that's why they may be making more money, even though you don't get Serena Williams in movies. But I'd say Serena Williams, I don't know, she may actually be a bigger star than Ronda Rousey just because there's more fans of tennis.
And an interesting article by Kareem Zidane on bloodyelbow.com wondering if Serena should have been the athlete of the year or if Ronda really is the athlete of the year. It's really interesting that you say that, Elias, because the Ronda Rousey effect has been felt on different levels around the world. Like even here in Australia, Brazilian jiu-jitsu gyms and judo gyms have a bunch of girls joining up and saying, oh, we want to be like Ronda Rousey one day. It's just a crazy effect. So my thing is this. I'm hoping next year the amount of money she makes does catch up with her brand value and her name value. I think if it's still around the 6.5 million mark, some people may have an issue. But the other thing I was going to say, just on a side note, man, women do not get paid enough when it comes to being athletes. The two lists just cannot be compared, the female and male lists. So some crazy stuff there. But anyway, moving on, guys. Anderson Silva has been a major topic for MMA fans pretty much this whole year almost. Elias, you wrote a really interesting article on Fox Sports with your thoughts about what's been going on. Basically, for people who live under a rock, he's been suspended for 1 year, due back in February because it's time served since his last fight.
January 31st.
January 31st. So the UFC are quick. Who knows? Maybe they can jump on that date. The defense by his lawyers, the sex spills, the excuses. I mean, it's just been a whirlwind. We'll go with you first, Elias. Was it handled correctly?
I don't think it was. And I did write about it a bit. I didn't report the news. I kind of took a day, considered just how poorly represented, poorly prepared Anderson Silva, his presumably high-priced lawyer, his probably well-compensated management, the expert witness they brought in that didn't have documentation. It was just a big mess. And I'm at this point, I'm starting to not be surprised. But after 10, 11 years of covering boxing and MMA, I'm surprised. I used to be surprised with how often people would come in with these just absolutely no sense of history and how the athletic commissions kind of rule on these things. For the most part, the athletic commissions, the big ones like Nevada, which this hearing took place in Nevada. It was a hearing, Nevada one. They say athletes have a responsibility to know what's in their body and what they put in their body. So if they go to GNC and there's something that shouldn't have been in there and a supplement that's legal, supposed to be legal, is in there, it's still their fault. If someone hands them something and they don't know what it is, it's still their responsibility. That's kind of been what we've usually seen. And Anderson came in there with his lawyer. I don't know why he even had one, because they basically ignored that, tried to say, hey, a friend of mine, a new friend who I made in the last year, gave me a drug, and by the way, that drug's not available in the U.S. or Brazil, only in Thailand, and he got it in Thailand. He brought it to me, a clear liquid in a blue vial. I took it without wondering what was in it, and that's why I tested positive for anabolics, to say nothing of these other, sadly, these antidepressant things that he didn't report the way you're supposed to report them and try to get an exemption. And then, furthermore, he comes up with this, either comes up or reveals something completely unnecessarily, which is that he was using it for, impotence or sexual help and stuff like that. It's just such a weird thing. Like, I don't know what they were thinking by doing that. I don't know why it wouldn't have been better to simply say I was trying to recover from this horrible injury, and I take it for the reason that most fighters take it, which is to help recover, or to take on the system fully. They had whispers of saying, hey, Nevada, you didn't handle this testing correctly. And oftentimes Nevada and California, the UFC, when they're on foreign soil, don't handle things correctly. Either go full throttle, challenge the system, the powers that be, or just say, hey, mea culpa, my fault. I shouldn't have done it. Like, maybe the punishment wouldn't have been any different, but he sure would have looked a lot less silly. And this is coming from someone, I don't think testing positive for steroids hurts Anderson's legacy because I think he's mostly competed his whole career with people that also use. So I don't really care about the steroid use in that moralistic way, but I do think he really surprised me with how just ridiculous he came off with this like horrid defense that made no sense and had no sense of history and how Nevada reacts to excuses.
There was a lot of ridiculous things throughout the whole hearing, especially the mystery phone DJ. We couldn't believe when they were trying to get Dr. Eichner, and it was like, Dr. Eichner, paging Dr. Eichner, and then comes on Shaggy Wasn't Me. Then you had Salt and Pepper, you had R. Kelly Bump and Grind, you had Miso Horn. Oh, man, it was so good. Kudos to the mystery DJ who pulled that off. But yeah, you're right, Elias, in the sense that I'll give you an example. End of March 2012, King Mo went before the commission, and he told I wouldn't say a similar story because nothing can top that, but he basically said he had an over-the-counter supplement. I guess it was laced. He didn't know what exactly happened, but he accepted full responsibility, and he said, look, it's my responsibility as an athlete, as a fighter, to know what I'm putting in my body. Pat Lundell asked Anderson Silva the same question. Do you agree that it's your responsibility to know what you're putting in your body, even if you're putting in something in your body, as safe and as trusted as a blue vial liquid that you got from Thailand from a guy called Marco that you only trained once or twice with, but you trust him fully. And she asked him, do you agree that it's your responsibility? And he sort of beat around the bush and said, well, yeah, no, yeah, but it's also, I'm a person and I make mistakes. And you'd think with the amount of times that the case got pushed forward, you would think they're working on something good. You'd think, man, they're cooking up something good. And then you hear days before, well, this is what Anderson's going with. He's using the sex medicine as an excuse, and you think, well, this is Fight Pass weather. This is something you got to check out. He brings in this guy, Paul Scott, who runs his own laboratory, Scott Analytics. He's not a doctor, and he didn't bring any evidence because he wasn't asked to. That's insane. How do you not prepare for things like that? Then you got Silva's lawyer, and he argued the inconsistencies of the tests. There was the Smurtle test that tested positive. However, the test from Quest, a different lab, tested negative. And he tried using that as a way of saying the test could have been tampered with. Again, Pat Lundell put the kibosh on that and said, look, the NSAC clarified that the Smurtle can catch more things, that laboratory, and it's not a valid reason. Different labs can catch different things. Smurtle is like, she likened it to a fishing net with a smaller and tighter weave that can catch more things. And Silva's lawyer seemed stumped. So it just seemed like they were horribly prepared. They didn't work on anything good. And at the end of the day, he's taken benzos. He's taken temazepam and oxazepam. I hope I'm pronouncing those correctly. He took a whole bunch of things. He also said that he stopped taking anything after January 8th, and then the commission, they called the doctor, and they said, well, the steroid it only has a half-life of about a week. So if you got tested on January 31st or the end of January, how was that still in your system? And then Silva said, oh, well, okay, I might have taken it the night before the fight. So there was a whole bunch of inconsistencies, and considering how long he had to prepare, I mean, Anderson Silva hasn't failed many times in his career, but if he was looking to leave that room a free man, innocent, and his name cleared, he absolutely failed on all accounts.
Yeah, that's some great points made there, Cass. And I mean, you almost want to see him take a page out of Chael Sonnen's book, his arch nemesis, and say, yeah, I did it, and I did it because it helped me. I wouldn't do anything that would do something bad for my body. I just feel like a lot of people had a different perception of Anderson Silva before going into this, and now that this is all wrapped up, it's just become such a joke. I agree with you guys. He should have just said, look, I had this broken leg. I made a mistake. I'm a human being. I took these steroids. People would have understood, and we would be at a completely different point in Anderson Silva's career. And I don't know what's going to happen with him in the future, but yeah, the defense is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't know if he's got a PR team. I don't know what's happened to Anderson, but these decisions were absolutely terrible. So I agree with you guys. It was an absolute joke. And if playing Shaggy, it wasn't me, was supposed to somehow get the judges and the jury to think he's innocent, I don't think it's a technique that works. We'll have to speak to his lawyers about that. Elias, just quickly, I just want to bring up something that you put in that article about Anderson. You brought up the question if Anderson had been tested before any other fight in your article. I'm just questioning that as well. Can you explain that point in your article a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was brought up a little bit in the hearing. Anderson was asked, hey, have you ever been before 183, this Diaz fight earlier this year, had you ever before been tested for drugs other than on the night of the fight, other than basically like a post-fight analysis, meaning the type of stuff that they've recently been doing, which is, weeks leading up to a fight. because he failed multiple drug screenings, right? He failed leading up to and he failed afterwards. And it seemed like there was a discrepancy between he and his manager who was translating, but the long and short of it is they said, no, this is the first time we've ever been tested. We were ever tested other than the night of the fight. That's kind of an important distinction because, as I understand it, the most important reason to take a lot of different types of performance-enhancing drugs, banned or not banned, the most important time to do it is during training camps to help you recover, help you heal, help you train harder, train longer. And if you've got enough time between, to clear it out, you usually can clear out a lot of different things from your system, speaking very broadly and very generally. So the kind of conventional wisdom is that no matter who is using what, by fight night, they can get rid of it. So it's important if we want to find out who's using different things, we've got to test them throughout their training camps. So Anderson, 20 years or so, somewhat into his career, basically was forced to acknowledge and highlight the fact that the first time he was ever tested outside of a fight night was this time, and he failed it. And that's an interesting question to make. Again, I don't really think, it doesn't make me think less of Anderson. I assume the highest level athletes in amateur and professional sports, the majority of them are using. Take that for what it's worth. That's just based on my experience. That's what I feel. That's what I believe is true. We know for a fact that many people documented to be banned drug users that Anderson has fought and beaten in the past. Stephan Bonner, Chael Sonnen, James Irvin. So we know he's been fighting people that are also using stuff. So I don't really care all that much in a moral sense if he's been using for a while. But that's what I was getting at, is that now it may affect the way people think of Anderson because they're going to say, shit, this is the first time Anderson's ever been tested during a training camp and he failed. Maybe if he would have been tested beforehand during training camps, he would have also failed those too. Maybe he's been using all along. We don't know. But I think that's the type of thing. When I was talking about how he's going to be perceived after the hearing because of a poor defense, and that's kind of what I was getting at. One of the other things I wanted to throw this at you guys, see if you don't mind. But since we've been kind of justly bashing Anderson's defense so much, I do want to point out. Speaking of inconsistencies, this is the second time in a year that the Nevada State Athletic Commission has screened someone for drugs before a fight, weeks leading up to a fight. They fail, and they still allow the fight to happen. Anderson Silva tested positive for steroids weeks before the fight. They allowed the fight to happen. John Jones, they found out, had cocaine in his system weeks before the fight. They allowed it to happen. Now they throw down the hammer at Anderson Silva long after the state of Nevada was able to reap revenue from the fight. I think that's a big, big problem. And I don't disagree with their punishment, but they don't look like they are in a place to be punishing others because they just don't. They're doing these things, these drug tests. They're supposed to be intensified drug testing, but what's the point if the fights are allowed to continue to go on? If fighters are allowed to go through arduous, heart-taxing training camps with cocaine in their system, or fighters are allowed to fight when we should have found out because of drug tests we subject them to that they were on steroids. I think that deserves to be highlighted as well.
I think it's a very good point. I mean, Wanderlei Silva, he gets a lot of flack nowadays for his, videos with death metal music in the background. But, it's kind of been his whole point that the Athletic Commission, who are they to punish people? I'm not saying people shouldn't be punished, but you make a very valid point. Who are these guys to be so harsh on, say, fighters when they themselves seems like they're going through what they would call a learning experience? That, we didn't feel the need to get this sample to the lab and ask for the express time frame for the sample to come back. So, we'll make sure we do it next time. It's like, it just seems, and, I say this never worked a day in the Athletic Commission and really don't know that much about it. So forgive me if I sound like a dick, but it just seems like there's a lot of incompetence. Incompetence is running rampant, whether we're talking about Silva's legal team or with the Athletic Commission itself. And I'm not a big conspiracy theory fan, but that's what leads people to believe things like, they were in on it, or the UFC owns the commission, or, they did it on purpose because it was a big fight. So everyone's basically got to step their game up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely agree with everything that you guys just said. It just comes to the commission. People just aren't trusting it. They aren't respecting it. Fighters aren't feeling safe to get in the octagon because the commission aren't protecting them. And it just goes across the board from fighters to referees. I mean, it doesn't look like anything's going to be happening to Steve Mazzagatti, not even a slap on the wrist. It just, they really need to pull their head in, because back in the day, no one really paid as much attention to the sport as they do now. And not as many people would actually be in the sport. And now you've got a whole bunch of different people in the sport, and they are looked at as the prime people, the prime commission to set the laws and set the rules and keep everybody in check. So great points, guys. They need to pull their game up. I think even all the new fight fans are getting frustrated with seeing what's happening. Now, to wrap this thing up, guys, the heavyweight scene, it's been going off. It's been crazy. Just for people that haven't been keeping up with the news, Fabricio Werdum will be defending his title against Cain Velasquez, so there will be a rematch. Stipe will be fighting Ben Rothwell. That's going to be in Dublin around October. Obviously, Arlovski's fighting Frank Mir. That's at UFC 191. And it really is looking like Overeem will be fighting JDS. Not sure when the fight's going to happen, but it seems like both guys are on board for that one. So in saying that, first question to everybody on the roundtable, what's everybody's thoughts on Cain getting the title shot? Are you happy with the choice? And if not, who would you rather have seen fight the champion for the title? We'll go with you first, Elias.
Yeah, I'm torn on that one. I would have, and a lot of it has to do with the timing of things. I am fine in a lot of ways with the rematch happening. I think the first fight was an interesting one. It was a great one. It had an ebb and flows, and it ultimately had a good, big upset. I think Cain has done enough and shown himself good enough to deserve an automatic rematch. However, if it all depends on how quickly this fight happens. Both guys took a lot of damage. Cain took a lot more. He needs proper time to rest. Guys get rushed, and guys and girls get rushed into fights far too quickly oftentimes, when there's big money to be made, and when there's slots to be filled. If they give the Cain like 2-3 months of resting before he can get into camp, I'm cool with it. I like the fight. I think it's a good matchup. I would have liked to have seen Stipe Miocic fight for the title next personally, to ensure that Cain got that type of time. But same token, Fabricio seemed to have been dropping hints in the media that he needed time as well. So I kind of like it. It depends if they give Cain enough time to recover. Just because I'm worried about fighters' brain health, you know?
You're a nice guy like that, Elias. We're seeing that on the show. You know, I think Werdum got suspended for about 6 months, which is why we initially crossed off him fighting on the Melbourne card in November. Look, when the fight happened, I do agree it was a bit of a weird fight, and I was one of the people that said, look, I think Cain didn't look the same as he used to in the past. I think the altitude may have gotten to him, and you know what? That's his fault. He didn't want to go to Mexico. I think he only got about 2 weeks in Mexico after Javier Mendez, his coach, really, convinced him. And for Fabricio Werdum to beat him, that's a really big deal. And I don't think it's respectful to Werdum to have an automatic rematch. I don't think Cain did enough. He's been the champion for a very long time. And I'm a big Cain fan, don't get me wrong. But I guess you got to consider he's been a champion for a very long time, partly because he's been so injured and he hasn't fought as much. I believe this was to break the record. I believe he's defended the title twice in a row. This was going to break the record. No one in the UFC has ever defended the title more than twice in a row. He didn't manage to do that. It's not like he's been champion for years and years and years, and he's got this crazy undefeated streak. I think he was only on like a 3-4 fight win streak, and I think for Werdum to beat him, because he was arguably the far better prepared man, I think he deserves someone else. And I thought about it, why would the UFC do that? Well, I think it's because they invested so much money into Cain Velasquez, the Mexican market, and also I respect the hell out of Werdum, but I think he's beatable. I think Arlovski could potentially beat him, stand up with him, stuff his takedowns, and keep the fight on the feet. Frank Mir, I think that'd be an interesting matchup on the ground. They may neutralize each other. On the feet, I'd give the advantage to Werdum, but it could be interesting. Overeem, I think, might beat him. Junior Dos Santos might beat him. So I think the UFC don't really want the title hopping around from guy to guy to guy to guy, because if it keeps happening, by the time Cain Velasquez works his way back up, you may have 4 different guys holding the heavyweight title. And I don't think that looks good when the top 5 guys or 4 guys are all former champions and the title's been bouncing around. So I think I understand why the UFC did that, but I don't necessarily think it's the right move. I don't think Cain Velasquez deserves a shot. They should have given him someone else. Give him like a Stipe Miocic, give him a Frank Mir, give him a, not Junior Dos Santos, but someone else. Let him win his way back to the title. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, and if he does beat Cain Velasquez in that second fight, I mean, he really can have the argument for being one of the most successful heavyweights in MMA history, considering some of the stuff that he's pulled off. I was one of the guys that was a big conspiracy theorist, and I'm ashamed to tell you guys, but I was really hoping for this whole Fedor thing to work out, and him getting an immediate title shot, thus reclaiming his glory and having another run. But alas, it doesn't seem like it's going to be happening. Let me ask you guys, Elias, you mentioned Stipe, and Cass, you mentioned Stipe as well. Even if Stipe does beat Ben Rothwell, it seems like if JDS beats Overeem or Arlovski beats Mir, they may still have the preference to get the title shot next. I'm just wondering if you guys think that might actually happen, and also, why don't you think the UFC is getting behind Stipe? I'll go with you first, Elias.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I ran into Stipe in Vegas at 189, and he was describing the stress of waiting for the call, because that was in that period of a couple of weeks where Dana White had said it was going to be either him or Arlovsky next for the title, guaranteed. And it's a tough place to be in. I get the same sense as you that they're not as excited about him as they would be Arlovsky, who's been a very popular guy for a long time, or Junior Dos Santos, who's a very popular guy, very charismatic guy. I also feel like they're not. I feel the same way as you. I guess they feel that the world hasn't seen enough of Stipe or heard enough from him, and he's just not as marketable yet, which is a shame. I scored the fight for him over Dos Santos. I think he's closer to earning it. I think Arlovsky has got a great storyline, and he's always a knockout. He's always a knockout risk for anyone. But I feel like Stipe is a more solid title challenge at this point. So yeah, I would just guess that they feel they can't market Stipe Miocic, a firefighter out of Ohio, as well as they can former champions, with already existing international fan followings.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, we've spent a lot of time around Stipe. He was obviously here in Australia for his fight with Mark Hunt. We've had him on the show multiple times. You know what? Off camera, and in general, he's one of the nicest, just most awesome guys in general. He's a very, very funny guy. He's got a good dry humor. He can take the piss out of himself. He's a really awesome guy. But when the camera goes on, you don't see his personality as much. I think the UFC's picked up on that. In the lead up to Mark Hunt, he was sort of singing the same song, basically saying, I'll do whatever I have to do to get the win. Meanwhile, Mark Hunt was saying things like, I'm going to knock you out, it's going to be a crazy fight. And I agree. I think it's mainly to do with marketability and even his fighting style. Like, I find Stipe exciting, but he is the type of guy that will go in there and do whatever he has to do to win the fight. I'm not saying that he goes in with a game plan of lay and pray or anything like that, but if that was what would win him the title, I think Stipe would do it. So I think looking from that perspective, and a guy who he's very good on Twitter, but just in general to the casual fans, people may not know him as well. Like you mentioned, like an Arlovsky who will go there, and you know what he's going to try and do? He's going to try and knock the other guy out. You've got a guy who breaks arms and breaks legs. Overeem, Overeem's Overeem. The guy just gets a lot of attention in general. And then Junior Dos Santos, who, knockout artists, those guys are just more marketable than a guy like Stipe Miocic.
Yeah, it's a great point made, Kaz, because Elias, just like yourself, like Casper's mentioned, we spend a lot of time with him, and when doing an interview with him, he gives exactly almost the same answers to every media outlet that interview him, which, believe it or not, I mean, you'd know this firsthand better than us, can make a real issue for a lot of outlets just running a story, having exactly the same thing, but maybe a day later than another outlet. So I think it is something, because he's such a respectful guy. I think it is something UFC need to chat to him about, at least mixing it up a little bit. But yeah, the way it's set up, I don't see him getting a title shot anytime too soon, guys. I really do think Arlovsky or JDS may be the next guys. But while we're on that point, just to wrap it up, and because I love Fedor so much, I'm a conspiracy theorist, with the way the scene is set up and the way the matchups are set up, how do you want to see Fedor, let's say, be brought into the UFC? I'm just going to say personally that I think the winner of Arlovsky and Mir may be looking at a Fedor fight, and I think that's a really cool fight to have. Him coming back, possibly fighting Andrei Arlovsky. They've had that fight once. Arlovsky wants a rematch. If Arlovsky loses, him versus Frank Mir, that could be fun. Frank Mir versus Fedor is a fun fight. Mir's going to try and challenge him on the ground and standing up. I think it's a good caliber fight for a guy who's 38 years old, and we're not sure if he's really the same Fedor he used to be. We'll go with you first, Elias. How would you like to see The Last Emperor being brought into the UFC?
Well, I was going to say, I wasn't, as much as I've loved Fedor as a fan, as an observer, I haven't been too excited about the idea of, like you said, a near 40-year-old guy who we've seen his results fall precipitously in recent years, and who wasn't into it, didn't have his heart into it. I'm not super excited about seeing that guy get into the hurt business again. But if he's going to do it, and if he's going to do it at heavyweight, I think that's actually a really good idea. I think Arlovsky and Mir probably have similar amounts of wear and tear on them. I think those would probably be fair enough fights. Mir's a much bigger boy, but Arlovsky and Fedor are probably around the same weight. I wouldn't mind Fedor trying to slim down a tiny bit and fight a little bit of light heavyweight, but that's probably not going to happen. So I'd actually have to agree with you. If they're going to do it, if they're going to do it at heavyweight, Mir or Arlovsky would be really fun fights and pretty fair fights.
Yeah, the Russian meat and potato diet isn't going to let him go down to light heavyweight anytime soon. Too much borscht. I think with Fedor, you got to tread carefully. He's going to be a big investment. You know, like when we had Vadim Finkelstein on the show, he mentioned that there's not many people that can afford Fedor. So believe it, if he's going to be going to the UFC, they're going to be paying a hefty price tag for him. You want your investment to pay off. You don't want to put him against the top end, the killers, and have him lose his first fight and then possibly lose the next two, like in Strikeforce. Obviously, he won his first fight, but then, you know, the results didn't follow through. So I think you got to tread carefully. I think you got to give him some winnable fights. I don't even know if you should fight a Frank Mir or Arlovsky. Granted, though, that Frank Mir, you know, he's only recently experienced a career surgeon, so that could still be a safe fight for Fedor. Actually, safe's probably the wrong word. It's not safe, but that could be a good one. The other thing to consider is, you know, we're all fans. It's unanimous. We're all Fedor fans here. I definitely don't think he deserves an immediate title shot. I still think he should work his way because his era was a little bit a while ago. And I think a lot of the casual fans who may have gotten into the sport just in the last few years, they may not even know much about Fedor or who he is. Granted, the UFC can definitely market him. They can give him the, you know, Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo treatment. If they invest enough time into advertising and marketing, they can build anybody up, and I'm assuming they'd want to do that with Fedor. But nevertheless, he's going to need an introduction to the casual fans, the new fans. He's going to need a signature win, and people are really going to have to see what he's made of. If he goes up against Frank Mir, and let's say the fight turns out like, say, when Frank Mir fought Krokop at UFC 119, and kind of looks like a bit of a glorified sparring match, they're not going to be jumping up and down going, give this man a title shot. So it really depends how he looks and how he performs. I think he needs a winnable fight if they want to push him to that title shot against, you know, possibly a Fabrizio Werdum rematch, which I'd be more than excited about.
Can you guys imagine those embeddeds and countdowns? It's going to be crazy. Too bad Conor McGregor can't go up to heavyweight.
There'd be one word from Fedor in the whole embedded.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, he speaks with his eyes, that sexy Fedor. Well, guys, there you go. Elias, thank you so much for joining us. You can check him out on Fox Sports, one of the best guys going around when it comes to articles and coverage of the UFC and MMA in general. And make sure to follow him on Twitter at Elias Cepeda. Elias, it's such a pleasure having you on Submission Radio.
It was a blast being on, guys. Thanks so much.
All right, guys, we'll be back right after this to wrap up this episode of Submission Radio.
Hey, this is Alistair Overeem, and you are listening to Submission Radio.
So there you go, guys. Elias Cepeda from Fox Sports. We hope you enjoyed the roundtable discussion. Last time we did it, obviously, with Dave Meltzer and Tommy Toehold for UFC 189. Let us know what you think in the comments below. People seem to enjoy it last time, so if it's something that you guys want to see more often, we'll definitely do it. We'll definitely get more journalists and media-type personalities on the show. For us, it's a blast. Just want to say a big thank you to listening, guys. I consider the show a success. I think it was a good episode. We had Demetrious Johnson, the UFC Flyweight champion. We had Ryan Bader, and we had Johny Hendricks. 3 big guests, and then, of course, the lovely Kleio Valentien joining us as well, and then Elias Cepeda. So it's been a fun show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SubmissionAUS, the Facebook, Submission Radio AUS. And, of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Drop your comments and feedback in the comments below. Let us know what you think about this Fedor situation. Let us know what you think about the Velasquez-Werdum situation. Do you think it's just? Should he be getting the title shot? And before we pull the plug for another week, Dennis, any last words for the fans?
Yeah, just a couple of quick words. You know, quite recently, MMA journalists have been coming under fire because people feel like there's a lot of unprofessional work, a lot of clickbaity things happening in the MMA world of journalism. And, you know, on this program, we're very lucky to have guys like Dave Meltzer, Kareem Zidane, and Elias on the show, just showing you guys some of the good quality journalists that are out there. So instead of taking a negative spin on it, I'd like to hear you guys give us in the comment section below your favorite MMA journalist and why. I think this show just shows you with some of these guys like Elias, Kareem, and Dave that there are a lot of good journalists out there. So it's good to focus on the positive sometimes. And also, Cass, I'm going to give some mustaches out for a movie that I watched. I went to the cinema and I had the pleasure of watching Man from U.N.C.L.E.
You saw it?
I saw it,
wow.
Yep, the new Guy Ritchie movie. A lot of negativity on that one as well. People not really feeling it, kind of giving it average reviews. I got to say, I give it 3 3/4 mustaches, almost 4. Thought it was a really fun movie. A great sort of chemistry between the leading cast and that sort of feeling that you get from Guy Ritchie movies. So definitely check it out. You guys won't regret it. It's a lot of fun. Cass, and also we already spoke about this movie, but you saw Mission Impossible. I gave it a glowing review last time when I was on the show. Do you concur with my review?
I do concur, Doctor. The movie is indeed glowing. If you haven't seen it already, definitely go check it out. My girlfriend, who's never, ever been a fan of Tom Cruise, and I say to her, look, he makes good movies. It doesn't matter what you think of him as a person. He makes really good movies. She's come around on the Tom Cruise bandwagon. She's like, yeah, Tom Cruise is actually pretty good. I'm like, I told you, and I'm never wrong. It was a great movie. I can't really talk too much about it just because I don't want to give out any spoilers. I will say this, the chick in the movie, the female, I don't know, protagonist, is that the right word? I didn't like her at the start. She really, really grew on me. She was cast very well. It's an awesome movie. That's all I can say. I would give it 4 mustaches, 4 Timothy Johnson mustaches out of 5.
There you go, guys. It's an official rating system now. And with that, that's the end of Submission Radio. We'll catch you next week. Be safe.